Hey everybody, Chase here. Just wanted to pop in and apologize for the lateness of this episode. We originally recorded for this one in early January and had planned to release it within the following week or two. However, due to a combination of technical setbacks, scheduling conflicts, and admittedly some procrastination on my part, the editing for this episode took a lot longer than expected. And I figured you guys deserved an explanation for the lateness for the sake of transparency. With all that being said, on with the show.
Welcome to Backwards Incompatible, the retrospective video game podcast that keeps going and going and going and going.
Oh god, we're still doing this? You mean there's more games? Haven't we talked about every video game in existence at this point?
We've been doing this for so long that no other games exist. We finished this series. It's over. The podcast is done. Go home.
We've talked about Frogger the Great Quest, god damn it.
It only goes down from there. Why continue?
Anyway, I'm your other host, Chase. Glad to be here.
And I'm Zane. Always happy to be here.
I'm host Garrett.
Well, guys, here we are. A new year, new us.
Yay.
You know, starting here at episode 30, a new set of 10, it's kind of like a new year, you know?
Yeah.
I'm excited to be back. I'm finally glad we're starting to get back into it. We've been kind of new year. And we did take some time off for the holidays, so it's great to be back and see you guys again.
New year, but it still feels the same.
Still same old shit, except this year I'm gonna be officially in my mid-20s.
I'm gonna be the same age as Gordon Freeman. He went to MIT. What have I accomplished? All I have is this show with you nerds.
You got a bachelor's, buddy. And so do I. I graduated this semester.
I never finished college.
Yes, Garrett, how about we take our bachelor degrees over here and stare at them at the wall while avoiding the uneducated plebeian in the corner?
Huzzah! I back that idea. Let us go over there and sip our little cup of tea.
Indubitably, yes.
I like banging blacks together.
Oh my god.
Alright. We've kind of delayed this already, so without further ado, we might as well get into the topic at hand tonight. Half-Life 2. Originally released on November 16th, 2004 for PC via Steam. Developed and published by Valve. This was actually the very first game available digitally on Steam.
Yeah, big of a banger and kind of solidified Steam as a digital gaming service.
I mean, outside of that, Half-Life 2 is a very notable game in gaming history. I mean, any gamer knows of Half-Life 2.
You know, 2004, around the time this game came out, you could drive to the movie theater and watch Pixar's The Incredibles. Kelly Clarkson's song Breakaway was a top charting song. It was a great time, although Bush did get reelected, so there's that.
I was for.
Like you said, Zayd, this is a very notable entry. While the original game Half-Life was likewise a groundbreaking title, this game pushed it even further. I mean, even just graphically wise, Half-Life 2 was years ahead of the competition. I wouldn't say it still holds up like a late PS3, maybe early PS4 title visually speaking. It's still years ahead of 2004 technology.
In my opinion, it's still very enjoyable, like, graphics.
But the main selling point of Half-Life 2's engine was the physics, the Havoc physics engine.
Yes.
This game was just a technical showcase. You can pick up pretty much any small handheld object and just toss it around, manipulate it. The gravity gun, essentially weaponizing the gravity mechanics in this game.
It's the funnest weapon in the game, by the way.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Havoc physics engine also used to make Borderlands as well?
Well, Havoc was mostly used to just touch up on the physics. The primary engine of Half-Life 2 was the Source engine.
Yeah.
Which was the engine Valve used for all of their games up until 2015 with Dota 2, when the Source 2 engine was developed. And more recently, Counter-Strike was ported over to Source 2.
Team Fortress 2 just gets re-released onto Unreal Engine 5.
The physics engine was a main selling point for this game. One of the very first things you do in this game is you approach a guard and he just knocks a can over and is like, pick up that can.
Going through that, I just found that so hilarious. Just kind of be walking by and guard just literally looks at you and just like, pick that up.
So, what did you guys do? I was a baby back bitch and put in in the trash can because I don't litter.
I just chucked it at him and ran past him while he chased me.
I tried to smack him in the head with it.
Garrett is what we refer to as a good little lamb. He is a sheep.
I thought we were supposed to be super sneaky. Okay, leave me alone. This is the first time I'm ever taking down a city.
First time? Well, we might as well talk about the development of Half-Life 2, because notoriously, Half-Life 2 took a bit longer than expected to come out. Story of Valve's life, really. Development began in 1999, shortly after the release of the original Half-Life. It was the first major game on the Source engine. To quote Gabe Newell, "Why spend 4 years of your life building something that isn't innovative and it's basically pointless? If Half-Life 2 isn't viewed as the best PC game of all time, it's going to completely bum out most of the guys on this team."
Oh crap, are you going into space chase mode? I'm gonna call it space chase mode.
That was my best take at a Gabe Newell impression.
Oh, okay.
After 9 years in development, hopefully it will have been worth the wait. And my favorite class is the spy. The art director was Viktor Antonov, and it was his suggestion that the game have a Eastern European aesthetic to everything, which you can definitely, like, City 17 feels very Soviet in its design.
Mm-hmm. It kind of gave me Czechoslovakia vibes, though.
I have a quote from Viktor Antonov. He said, "One of the reasons that we liked Eastern Europe as a setting was that it represents the collision of the old and the new in a way that is difficult to capture in the United States. You go over there, and you have this collision between all these things, the new architecture, the old architecture, the fall of communism. There's a sense of this strongly grounded historical place."
Yeah, okay.
Spoken with passion right there. Like, what else has Viktor Antonov done in terms of artists? It looks like he's done Dishonored. Oh, wow. He did Dishonored. That's insane.
That's a big one.
Well, we're going to cover that one day, but it's... Oh, Doom, 2016.
Consultant on Fallout 4.
Yeah.
He was a map painter for Redneck Rampage in 1997.
Dude,
so.
I don't even know what that is. Jeez. You gotta love the backwards projects from these people who have done absolutely amazing shit.
But yeah, City 17, it's not really based off of any one specific city in Eastern Europe. Really, it's just an amalgamation of various cities, including Riga from Latvia, Belgrade from Serbia, St. Petersburg in Russia, and Sevastopol in Ukraine. So really, it's just a mishmash of various Eastern European cities.
The setting, and as well as the level design in the setting, was very great in how it guided you through it. And I think with all the environmental elements that you used, perfect in making it just a wide open expanse, but still having that streamlined level design.
Although why half the signs are written in English, just ignore that part.
English is the universal language now, don't you know?
Yes, the Combine. They are so progressive with introducing English, most universal language, in their post-apocalyptic dystopian world. Which, yeah, we should probably clear up the premise or the plot of this game in relation to the previous game. So,
yes.
Half-Life 2 picks up roughly 20 years after the previous game, Half-Life, where if you remember, Gordon is put into suspended animation by the G-Man. He wakes up here where the Combine, an alien empire, has taken over the Earth. So what happened is, after you killed the Nihilanth in Black Mesa, that created a portal introducing the Combine to Earth. They defeated Earth's military in what was called the 7 Hours War. So in just 7 hours, all military forces on the planet were destroyed by the Combine.
Which is insane.
We suck.
Yeah, it really emphasizes just how technologically advanced the Combine were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, seeing the Combine architecture and technology was insane. It really showed the distance we had between them.
Well, I noticed some of their like ships that would fly around just felt kind of organic too.
Biomechanic weapons.
There was one ship that I saw in it, and it just, for some reason, just like with how like parts of it was, it just reminded me of like the legs of like water bears. Combines.
A lot of the Combine stuff felt very insect-like. Like, the dropships looked like flying bugs, the Striders were like big spiders.
The gunships kind of remind me of fish swimming in the ocean.
Yeah, there's just a very, alien design to a lot of the Combine stuff. And the thing is, most of the Combine we encounter aren't really aliens. They're like genetically modified humans in the armor suits. Like, those are the soldiers you typically come across. Those are the Combine sympathizers who sold their souls to the fascist regime.
But guess who comes to stop them? A non-modified, organic, and HEV suit with glasses and a degree from MIT, Gordon Freeman.
Yeah, there's a point where Gordon plugs in the plug to the teleporter in Dr. Kleiner's lab, and Barney's like, wow, Gordon, I can tell that MIT training's really paying off.
And then there's like, some of the credit goes to Gordon as well. He did a great job helping us.
I feel like that might have been a little bit of a jab to the previous game where all Gordon's job entailed was pushing a cart into the energy thing.
Yeah.
You need to know how the physics work, okay?
There's another line from one of the civilians of City 17. She's like, I feel like everyone around me is a scientist except for me. And I'm like, yeah, that is one of the things about this is it feels like almost every notable character worked at Black Mesa, like Dr. Kleiner, Dr. Eli Vance, Breen, even Alex was at Black Mesa as a young kid with her father. So like, if you were not a scientist at Black Mesa circa the late 90s, you just don't matter. You're just not a main character.
If you're not a scientist, get off my planet.
But yeah, so Garrett, this was your first time playing through Half-Life 2, so I'm curious, what were your immediate reactions to this game?
So the first game was just like very closed in hallways, closed in outside hallways even, and there was maybe like one or two levels that were kind of more open, whereas this one felt a bigger, grander scale. There were more NPCs around. There was a little bit more differences in their character models, and even though it still seemed limited, it still felt immersive enough to really get me into this setting, especially with City 17. It gave me the vibe of, well, another Valve product, Portal.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about Portal and the connections to Half-Life later, but yeah.
Overall, this game was definitely a step up. There were some things that was kind of annoying. The aux power. Okay, I understand if I'm using it for sprinting, but it also drains if you use your flashlight. So if you sprint, I can't turn on a light.
I think in episode 2, Alex makes a comment on that. It's like, we really need to talk to Dr. Kleiner about changing that aux power.
Yeah, exactly. And then like in this episode 2, they actually gave the flashlight its meter. I'm like, that's what it needed at the beginning.
It's like halfway through, part of the way through the game, they're like, okay, you know what? We'll make this better. We'll make it make more sense.
Comparing just how much more grander in scale and open Half-Life 2 is in comparison to the previous game, which personally, I like the enclosed nature of the previous game. I don't know. I think I talked about it in our last episode, but I always found that oddly comforting and cozy that Half-Life 1 takes place almost entirely within Black Mesa.
Yeah. Also, Half-Life 1 also has a lot more of a kind of like creepy vibe to it. It's a little bit more of a horror-esque at points in comparison.
I mean, you say that, but Half-Life 2 has Ravenholm.
Yeah, Ravenholm. Woo!
But I'm just saying, it's like, for me, it just kind of felt like a lot more consistent like that in Half-Life 1. Especially with like the head crabs and all that other stuff. When I first played through that game, it creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah, Half-Life 2 definitely feeds into the first-person shooter aspect a whole lot in terms of action compared to the horror that, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, Half-Life 2, the headcrab zombies are even more terrifying because they scream.
They do scream, but there is one who is certainly amazing. I love the cast of characters. So maybe we should talk about first cast of characters we kind of come upon.
Oh, should we talk about our best boy, our favorite head crab?
Let's talk about characters in order of appearances, aside from you-know-who. We'll get to him when we get to him, but let's talk about Barney, Good old Barney. So, I pointed this out in our episode for the previous game, but you remember that one security guard at the very beginning who was locked out on the opening cutscene? Well, not cutscene, but...
Haha, very funny. Open the door.
That was was Barney. He was also the protagonist of one of the original Half-Life expansions, Blue Shift. So, yeah, he got his own little spin-off there. Well, he's back in guard form.
He's important.
The underground resistance.
Hey, Gordon, about that beer I owe you.
I like how they kind of call back to like literally the least important, like you think would be the least important character in the series. Just because it was like an opening sequence, you're kind of seeing everything, and you're seeing kind of like the ragtag crew at Black Mesa. Barney, I have a very soft spot for. He is my brother.
Yeah, he's an alright guy. He's always there to help Gordon out by handing him a weapon. Like, he gives you the crowbar at the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I think you left this at Black Mesa.
How nice of him to hang on to this one random crowbar all these years.
For 20 years. He's just waiting to give it back.
And he's also something of a captain of the other resistance members when they start uprising against the city, so that's pretty cool. But he's just kind of there, you know? Barney, is he in episode 2? I think he's mentioned, but I don't think he makes an appearance at any point.
No.
If he makes an appearance, it's very briefly, if at all.
I don't think he's in episode 2.
Barney, he's a nice guy, you know? No reason to dislike him, but to me, he's just always like, oh yeah, you're that guy.
I mean, he's a nice, chill dude. I'd grab a couple beers with him. I feel like that's kind of like on fault of like Valve just for not really doing anything with his character.
Right. Well, going back to development for a second, Half-Life 2 was going to be much more dialogue and story driven, but after early showcases, Gabe Newell and a few other higher ups decided it was better to emphasize the new gameplay innovations instead of the story, which is understandable to a degree, but yeah, that's kind of the thing with Half-Life 2 is, we'll talk about it. Actually, no, I'm going to talk about this now. You know what? I have a bone to pick with Valve and their storytelling techniques.
Hold up. Let's just at least talk about the story first. You had the right idea. Let's not derail this this podcast.
All right, I'll save my thoughts. Well, after we run into Barney, we run into Alex Vance.
You mean the female protagonist kind of? It's like, what is it? It's not, it's the main supporting character. Aren't they called something?
Well, Dude Aragonus, yeah, that's like the secondary protagonist. And I would say that fits Alex pretty well. Yeah, Alex, she's voiced by Meryl Dandridge, who would later go on to play Marlene in both the video game version of The Last of Us and in the live-action version of The Last of Us.
Wow.
Just a little casting trivia there.
Honestly, one of the better characters in the game.
Useful.
She's definitely the most fleshed out and developed, I would say.
Yeah, which makes sense for the part and role that she plays. I mean, she's there for the entire game, pretty much.
Although, I will have... Okay, here are two good things and one bad thing I found. One good thing was her character has like flaws in like talking to Gordon and kind of like cringe or jokes are falling flat. It's like, okay, that's realistic in the
Sorry to interrupt, Garrett, but I gotta get this off my chest. The one moment in episode 1 where you come across the zombine and she's like, hey, it's a zombie combine. A zombine. Hey, get it? Hey, get
Yeah.
it? I'm just like, Alex, the Citadel's about to blow up above our heads. If we don't get out of here, we are fucking dead.
I feel like they were very self-aware with writing a lot of the jokes. They were supposed to be just like really dead flat jokes.
Yeah.
They were meant to be like, oh, well, the humor is the fact that it is a bad joke.
Right. I get that maybe they were going for she's using humor to like cope with the tense everything that's going on around her, the situation.
That's what I do.
Right, it's fair. It's just at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It just came across as very quippy to me, and I don't know. I get in 2004, this type of dialogue was a lot more endearing, but in the year of our Lord, 2024, it's just a little bit more, I don't know, been there, done that. You know, after a decade of Marvel and Joss Whedon, it's just, I'm just sick of that type of humor.
It's still there for me.
There was also like, Alex would stare at Gordon kind of weirdly and kind of like do like weird winks, and I'm like, all right. Like, they're poorly timed winks. And it's just like, I understand you guys are trying to make her like cool or kind of bad at being cool, but that was really cringe, not gonna lie.
I think she's a badass, you know? She kicks Combine ass constantly, and she has a ton of health, so she doesn't go down without a good fight.
And that's the big thing. She is very useful. Alex is probably the best follower that you get, and not to mention has mostly great dialogue, has a lot of throwbacks and to like, I don't know, when did Crank That Soldier Boy come out?
Come on, Gordon, crank that thing. Yeah, I would say Alex is definitely one of the better characters of the series. One of Valve's main objectives with Alex, especially when you get to the episodes, is they didn't want her to feel like just one of those NPC companions that just gets in the way, interrupts you, or is just annoying to be around. Ashley.
I mean, honestly, she could have easily just been the protagonist over Gordon.
In Half-Life Alyx, well.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Yeah, Alex is just a well-rounded character. You can tell Valve focused on her a lot over other NPCs, which isn't a bad thing because of just how prominent and how much time you spend with her throughout the entire, I guess, trilogy of Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
And I think in episode 2 specifically, they upgraded her model to have better lighting textures and all that.
Yeah, but there's also one thing that I don't really care for. That has to be the goo-goo guying over Gordon Freeman. Like, it's understandable kind of meeting your hero, but it felt like they were just glassing over us over and over and over again. You're so amazing!
Yeah, that's part of what I was getting at earlier is, so Half-Life 2, it's one of those things where gameplay, it's amazing. From a engine standpoint, it's amazing. Character and story, it's a little, it's there, don't overthink it too much, because, yeah, Alex is a great character, everyone loves Alex, but everyone else is just sort of there, like Barney, or I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is, why does everyone obsess over Gordon? I know he's supposed to be the hero of Black Mesa, or he's the savior of the Resistance, but because of the way Half-Life story is without any cutscenes, there's only one cutscene in episode 2, really, with the G-Man, but...
Yeah, there's like that opening cutscene and then that one in episode 2.
Right. So you have full control over Gordon pretty much throughout the entirety of the game, and you kind of have to stop and think like, oh wow, all these NPC characters, they're like, yeah, that's Gordon, we can rely on him, he's a trusted advisor, he's a great soldier and scientist. Meanwhile, Gordon is just jumping up and down, hitting a brick wall with a crowbar.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where you gotta separate gameplay with story. Yeah, it is weird how everyone is so obsessed with Gordon, even though he doesn't really communicate with them. It's just one of those things where don't really stop and analyze this from a storytelling standpoint because it just doesn't make any sense. And they do comment on it. Alex is like, man a few words, aren't you? Later on, when you're storming the Citadel, Dr. Breen, he's a bit of an ableist there, where he's like, can you name one thing you've created? I think not. And I'm like, damn, dude, he's mute. You don't gotta do that to him.
Don't question his MIT degree. He's got a gravity gun.
And my issue with, like, this game primarily with, like, the NPCs, they're not fleshed out, like we were saying. What really bothers me is the fact that they're so, like, there that if you remove many of them from the story, nothing changes, really, for the most part.
I'd say maybe episode 2, they play a bit more of a role in the grand scheme of things, but I get what you're saying. The story of Half-Life, it's not terrible, but it is just it's basically just there to explain what's going on for the gameplay. The story justifies the gameplay, or does the gameplay justify the story? Either way, the point is gameplay is what Valve focused on, and in that regard, they succeeded. And again, by 2004 standards, I don't think the plot and characters of Half-Life is bad by any means. It certainly leaves an impression on you, but it's not the focus. It's
something that's very easy to just kind of gloss over.
Yeah. The characters just feel so disconnected from the world they're in. It's like, if you just listen to the characters, how they interact and how they behave, you wouldn't really deduce that they've spent the last 20 years in a dystopian post-apocalyptic hellscape.
And building up a resistance. Like, these just feel like some dudes just in, like, some tough times, maybe.
Speaking of resistance, why don't we talk about why they're resisting? In City 17, we kind of get that little glimpse in the beginning of it's a dystopia. It's always controlled. We've already talked about the Combine taking over, but it's just so dangerous to live there because not only are we exposed to the living conditions, but also the security that goes on in City 17. There's plenty of break and sweep or something like that. And it's just going into people's houses. They have no sense of security. They probably are piss poor, and I wish they would have gone into it just a bit more. I wanted more time in City 17 and see for what it actually was instead of immediately being sent outside to do Gordon Freeman stuff.
Another thing, too, with the resistance that makes sense is like, well, to begin with, there's always going to be a resistance, especially because it was a massive hostile takeover of an entire planet.
According to Dr. Breen in his opening advertising of Welcome to City 17, it's safer here. It's one of those things that you can either like it or dislike it depending on how much of world building you care about, but I do like there's a lot of implications with Half-Life 2's world building that I kind of enjoy. It allows you to fill in the blanks yourself.
Yeah, not safe, but it's safer.
I mean, we get a glimpse of what the outside world beyond the city's walls look like, and it is full of monsters and aliens, and yeah, it is radioactive wasteland. It's just not a fun time outside of the relative security of the major cities.
And I especially love the big monitors that show the director's face. It's amazing to kind of get this sort of Stalin-esque...
Sean Connery looking a guy.
Yeah, this Stalin-esque dictatorship.
I mean, a lot of the Combine influence and control over Earth, like I said earlier, it's very Soviet Union, but with a alien flair to it. Well, we might as well talk about him since we're here. Dr. Breen. So he was the former administrator of Black Mesa. After the 7 Hours War, he negotiated with the Combine of Earth's surrender, and now he's essentially the ruler of Earth, at least as a puppet leader. I don't think he has any real power per se.
He's just a face.
Yeah, he's just the face for the Combine.
And so he lives better than everyone else.
Yes, he gets his own office at the top of the Citadel.
No, it's a nice one.
And all the water vending machines are called Dr. Breen's private supply.
Yes.
Private supply for the public eye.
Yeah, Dr. Breen and his Breen cast all over the city where he's just spouting propaganda and stuff.
Definitely gives like a fascism feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about how humanity better learn its place and submit to the Combine because if humanity doesn't, well, you know what'll happen. There's a couple quotes of Dr. Breen that I wrote down here. One is when he's defending himself about all the resistance members referring to him as a collaborator. At one point, he says, "Did the lungfish refuse to breathe air? It did not. It crept forth boldly while its brethren remained in the blackest ocean abyss, with lidless eyes forever staring at the dark despite their eternal vigilance. And that lungfish's name, Linda."
Linda.
Here's a fun fact for all of you out there. During one of my early years at film school, we were given an assignment where we had to take pre-existing audio from any source, it could have been anything we wanted, and mix it with a video project. It was one of our earliest video and audio editing projects, and I used some of Dr. Breen's dialogue for mine. Basically, I just made a quick video about what was essentially Half-Life 2, just a dystopian future. I just took some stock footage of like a rundown city and put Dr. Breen's voice cast over it, did some fiddling with color and all that. The professor liked it and it was used in a university showcase, so yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that must have been pretty good at least of some standard.
There's a moment when you're taking over Nova Prospect, if you listen into one of his broadcasts, Dr. Breen is basically going like, "How are you people so incompetent at stopping Gordon? How have you not killed him yet? He's just a person. He's just a guy.
He really is just a guy."
He barely earned his degree. He was just a pencil pusher at Black Mesa. How is he killing soldiers by the dozens? How? Yeah, why is Gordon like so powerful and so guarded by destiny? My personal headcanon is that there's like some G-Man influence going on.
My personal headcanon is that MIT, he didn't study like what you would think MIT would study. He actually studied martial arts, and that's why they hired him.
While you were busy having premarital sex, I was studying the crowbar. And now that the Combine are knocking at your gates, you have the audacity to ask me for help?
Exactly.
I mean, I guess the HEV suit can explain that it's just very durable armor, but like his head isn't covered, so what happens when he gets shot in the head?
It bounces off his head. What else would happen? It just crushes and just goes bing.
It's super hard metal right there. He had a big implant put in at Black Mesa.
It's just invisible.
I guess, like the G-Man said, the right man in the wrong place and all that.
You were the right man.
I think Gordon is just bound by destiny to be the free man, as the Vortigons call him.
We must assist the free man. By the way, since we're on the Vortigaunts, let's talk about them and their relation to the Resistance.
I really appreciated how much more fleshed out and characterized they are in this game, because in the previous game, they were just mindless enemies that show up and shock you. As it's later revealed, they were enslaved by the Nihilants, so by killing the Nihilant, they see Gordon as their savior, as the one who freed them, and they have now allied with humanity to fend off the Combine.
Yeah, I mean, I really like their design. I mean, they're pretty cool looking creatures.
And not to mention the culture they kind of put into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of reminded me of Hinduism.
Really? I didn't know really what to compare it to, but I really like their psionic powers, and man, are they overpowered. They can stop G-Man.
Yeah, the Vortigaunt culture, it kind of reminded me of some semblance of Hinduism in the sense that the Vortigaunts believe in reincarnation, they believe in the great beyond. Like, it reminded me of the concept of Brahman and karma and all that. It's been a while since I've deep dove into Hinduism, so I apologize if I'm getting all of this wrong. This is just what I vaguely remember from several years ago of study, but yeah, the Vortigaunts are just an interesting culture. I just really like how they're depicted in this, especially in Episode 2. Episode 2 is where they really get their time to shine in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm. Their entire voice, are they voiced by one person?
I think most of them are, although I think by Episode 2, there's a few variants in voices. I know Louis Gossett Jr. voices them in the base game of Half-Life 2.
And what a performance he puts on for all the Vortigaunts.
Like the singing Vortigaunt you find in the sewers.
Yeah, here's what the Vortigaunts and the Resistance relationship kind of reminds me of. The Sangheili, the elites from Halo, and the UNSC.
Wasn't this the same year as Half-Life 2 as well? So, funny coincidence there.
What a coinky-dink. Those game developers, they knew what we wanted.
We wanted alien uprising. You do get a Vortigaunt companion in Episode 2 who follows you for a little bit of the game. He's pretty cool.
What an OG. He's like, they are in trouble. Let's go help them.
Speaking of Vortigaunts in Episode 2, there's Uriah, the scientist Vortigaunt. He's got a little lab coat on and everything, and I'm like, damn, he's got that riz.
Did they just give a Vortigaunt a lab coat and just send them down there just to be like the door person? That's what I feel like they are.
No, he's a scientist. He works with them.
Ah, yes, this door.
He's a science of opening doors.
He contributes.
Hey, there's a lot of different ways that doors can open.
Dang, a two-way door.
They can open inwards and outwards.
It really requires math.
Yeah, I just think it's cool that the Vortigaunts have gone from just an enemy alien race to a much more fleshed out species and culture, so that's always appreciative.
Their psionic powers are really cool.
I don't think they're a hive mind per se, but because of their telepathy, they can communicate with each other pretty instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of like, almost like if a hive mind like evolved or something like that to be separate beings.
I wish there was a little bit more talk in between the Vortigaunts. Like, they'd be like, did you catch the game Tuesday? No, I didn't go. The kid was sick. Like, doing that kind of stuff.
The sounds they make. Like, when your companion Vortigaunt shows up to rescue Alex in Episode 2 from the Hunters, and then he notifies his other Vortigaunts, the sound, that scream they make, it's just so cool and alien, and it's a great sound effect.
It made me unsettled and, yes, excited to kind of at least see the Vortigaunts. I've been always wanting to see them prior to Episode 2, and I'm so glad they gave us that fan service.
Yeah, I mean, and it is nice seeing like what was once enemy turn to friend. That's like something that's a trope I've always liked in storytelling.
They've always put "the" in front of people's names, like the Alex Vance, the Eli Vance.
What if that's in their culture too? Like, they refer to each other in a sort of like the wise or the Alpha Max or whatever, kind of like in their own native tongue.
Well, I think that's what it is. It's a translation thing. So what happens when they meet two humans with the same name?
Okay, so let's say it's Clyde.
The Daniel. The cooler Daniel.
The Rizzler Daniel.
No, regular Daniel is crushed.
All right, yeah, the Vortigaunt's always fun. Going back to the characters, though, we went down a bit of a tangent with the Vortigaunts, but I mean, who can blame us? Let's talk about Dr. Eli Vance, voiced by Robert Guillaume, who you might know as Rafiki from The Lion King.
Rafiki.
I thought I heard that voice before. I couldn't put it on there. Doesn't matter. The past is the past.
But yeah, Dr. Eli Vance. So he was one of the head scientists in Black Mesa, and you actually do meet him in the first game retroactively because he's not named, but
Yes.
yeah, he's the scientist you meet right after the resonance cascade.
Wasn't his project on the resonance anyways?
Yes, he was one of the overseers of that whole project, and he feels very guilty over all the shit that went down.
Like, he will not stop talking about it. Don't get me wrong, I do love Vance. I like that he's a family guy. But my guy, I know what we need to do. Don't worry, we'll get it done.
And there's the fact that he really heavily implies that he wants Gordon to be his new son.
Yeah, after the Combine suppression field goes down, which, by the way, that's one of the other more disturbing things of how the Combine enforce their rule over the planet, is they put a fertility suppression field over Earth, which prevents any pregnancies.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't pick up on that?
I did not pick up on that at all.
Did you not listen to Dr. Kleiner's message in episode 1 telling everyone to get down and fuck?
Like, I just thought that was just them being goofy. I didn't actually pay heed into it.
All right. So, like I said, as part of a way to control humanity, the Combine have put a suppression field over Earth that prevents embryos from being formed. So, the human birth rate has just flattened out. There has been no human births in the last 20 years. And after the Citadel is destroyed at the end of Half-Life 2, the suppression field is gone. So that's why Dr. Kleiner in his message is like, everyone must do their duty to the species and ensure the survival of humanity. And Alex is like, is Dr. Kleiner telling everybody to get busy?
And Eli is just like, yeah, how about you follow Dr. Kleiner's advice with my daughter? And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, especially it's a bit weird when you stop and remember that technically Gordon is at least 20 years older than Alex. Like, yeah, he was frozen in time by the G-Man for 20 years, but like the last time Gordon saw Alex, she was a child.
Did Gordon ever really see Alex? I don't think so.
I mean, she was in Black Mesa because a lot of the scientists lived on base and she was there.
But we never actually met.
I mean, it's possible.
Doesn't mean that, like in the universe, that they had not met at that place before.
She knew of Gordon because of her dad.
Right.
But yeah, Dr. Eli Vance. So he's one of the leading members of the Resistance, and he has this warm, comforting, father figure Vizier to him. So that's always nice.
Very charismatic.
He's missing his left leg. He's got like this metal prosthetic. It is one of the few examples of, oh yeah, Earth has been a living hell for the last 20 years under the Combine.
There is no freedom.
I love the sort of charismatic attitude we got from our leader, Eli Vance. The Eli Vance.
He does feel like a very charismatic character.
He's not, I wouldn't really say he's the leader of the Resistance. I see the Resistance as more of just a conglomerate group where there's no single leader, but he is one of the more experienced and more authoritative figures.
He's kind of like the leader of the companions in Skyrim.
Shoot, don't tell me Codlac and the Circle.
Yeah, because like they don't really have a leader, but they have that one guy that they kind of just look up to as if he is the leader.
Yeah, that's kind of Dr. Vance.
Dr. Vance is an ultimate Chad.
He loves his daughter Alex, and she loves him as well, and that's really touching that even in this horrible post-apocalyptic world, a father and daughter just really look out and care for each other. That's nice. I think the head writer, Mark Laidlaw, he really wanted to emphasize the family connection between Alex and Eli.
Yeah.
And of course, in episode 2, when you meet up with Dr. Eli Vance at the Resistance missile silo base, him and Gordon have a little chat, and this is where it's revealed that the G-Man was the one who gave the Zen crystal to Black Mesa. I think I brought that up in the previous... Yeah, this confirms it.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, like, okay, I'm glad that we kind of got at least somebody else to relate to in terms of visiting the G-Man, and that really adds to what kind of being is this guy.
He refers to the G-Man as our mutual friend.
And I love that the title is Our Mutual Friend. You know, when this whole kind of talk comes up in episode 2, Alex gets close to death. I know we're jumping a little bit. Alex gets close to death, but then G-Man comes around and is like talking very like God and kind of like being really weird and getting super close to Alex and unforeseen consequences. Like
unforeseen consequences, which according to Eli, he said right before the resonance cascade in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
That cutscene with G-Man when Alex is healing, which, by the way, I really liked how when the Vortigaunts were healing Alex, her skin, for a brief few seconds, you see through her skin to her muscle and skeletal tissues. Gross, but fascinating, and a really cool visual effect. The one cutscene with the G-Man during that scene, that's really the only time throughout Half-Life 2 where control is taken away from the player. It's just a straight-up cutscene.
Yeah.
Well, there's one more scientist character we should talk about, Dr. Kleiner.
Isaac.
Professor Farnsworth guy with the shotgun.
I'm a professor with a shotgun.
Wait, does that make Alex Leela? I find it funny how a lot of the characters in this game are essentially just souped up versions of the NPCs from the previous game, just given distinct personalities. Like, Dr. Kleiner is the bald scientist with glasses.
You kind of remind me of my dad a little bit because my dad has that same haircut.
What hair?
Exactly. I don't know, just his jokes are just the funniest. Lamar! Where are you, Lamar?
Best character.
His pet head crab Lamar. Don't worry, she's been completely defanged, but she will try to mate with your head.
Lord have mercy.
Yes, Lamar, the head crab named after the 1930s actress/scientist Hedy Lamarr. There's only one Hedy, according to Dr. Kleiner.
Lamar is just a simple little just character, but I love Lamar. Lamar's my favorite.
Lamar reminds me of a cat. Just gets in everywhere.
Yes.
It'll take me a week to coax her out of there.
Oh, the best of times.
So Lamar gets teleported away with Gordon early on in the game, but then I guess Kleiner found her at some point, unless he found another head crab and named it Lamar.
But this one...
debeaked that one as well.
Wait, hold on, I just remembered. Lamar climbs into Magnuson's rocket at the end of episode 2, and they note that. They're like, there's a 8-pound abnormality in the rocket. It's within reason, let's just ignore it. And I'm like, oh shit, Lamar!
No.
Lamar!
Then they shoot the missile into the portal, so I guess Lamar's fucking dead.
No, Lamar.
Jeez, oh Pete.
In the arms of a Vortigaunt.
What if Lamar just comes back and is just chilling, and all of a sudden we can talk to the head crab?
What if Lamar takes over the G-Man's body?
Lamar is the G-Man now. It just head crab a G-Man now.
That's probably where Dr. Kleiner got his idea that we all need to get down and get busy.
He saw Lamar and is like, yes, we all must fuck.
Dr. Kleiner, he's a fun character. I feel like he's the closest thing to a comic relief in these games, just because he's, in comparison to Eli or Dr. Magnuson, Kleiner's the dorky nerd scientist type.
He lacks a social compass.
He's just very goofy.
Nerd! In episode 1, he takes over from Dr. Breen for broadcasting throughout the city. Kind of gave me Winston Churchill, we will fight them on the beaches kind of vibes, hearing Dr. Kleiner's monologue fighting in the city streets of City 17, where he's like, the time is now to fight back against our aggressors. Also, City 17's about to blow up, so you might want to skedaddle.
Get the fuck out of here.
You see that big giant fuck-off portal right above the city? Yeah, that's gonna destroy everything in a 5-mile radius.
Inside the city is gonna be like the outside of the city.
And you just know that there's at least one guy in the middle of City 17, even after all the shit's gone down. He's just like, fake news, I'm gonna stay inside, there is no citadel, there is no portal, it's all a conspiracy.
Exactly.
I refuse to wear my anti-head crab helmet.
The Combine are our friends.
It is election year, people.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah, important message here. Figure out the most important candidate and vote for them in terms of what you believe in, what you believe is right, but please don't be a dickhead. That's pretty much it.
So when you're in the Citadel in episode 1 with Alex and it's coming down, she's like, huh, that was random. Talk about unstable. We do have one last character I think we should talk about for now. Dr. Judith Mossman.
Yeah, that lady.
For a while, you think she's betrayed you. Oh, wow, the character with the name Judith. Oh, she betrayed us. Oh, no.
Oh, wait, she's on our side now?
Yeah, she double crosses Dr. Breen at the end by... okay, so she wasn't a double agent, but she was with Dr. Eli Vance to betray Dr. Breen by making it feel like Dr. Breen was working with her, and Alex and Gordon didn't know about this.
Just basically a plot point for them to kind of fuck over with.
She was a secret agent.
I mean, I appreciate that we have, like, another female character aside from Alex, and she is one of the scientists, although I don't think she worked at Black Mesa, at least not with the others, because she mentions to Gordon, wow, you got to work at Black Mesa with Kleiner and Vance in their prime.
Which is imply that she probably did come in, like, much later.
It's definitely fangirling moment, I guess, or fanboying, just fan interaction in general. I mean, I don't mind being popular, but dang, being a celebrity is annoying.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, Dr. Judith Mossman, she's alright. Her betraying, or seemingly to betray, the Resistance, it does add a little bit of a layer to the story, and does make Dr. Breen seem a little bit more sinister as well. Although I do have one question. This is something that perplexed me. At the end of Half-Life 2, when the Citadel explodes with Gordon and Alex, how did Eli Vance and Judith get away? Okay, here's what confuses me. They might have escaped right before the Citadel exploded, so that explains how they got out of there. But Judith is all the way in the Arctic next time you meet up with her in episode 2, and it's only been like a day.
Look, you need to stop asking these questions, because really...
He's the G-Man.
Well, they do have teleporters.
You know why he's called the G-Man? He's the God-Man.
Literally, they work them calves. You know, that's how they're able to get there. They just jog the whole way.
Yeah. The storyline with Judith, Dr. Judith Mossman in episode 2 is she has located the Borealis.
Wow, what a big plot point. It seems like that will come in handy next title.
The Borealis is a research ship that was used by Aperture Science, and if I remember correctly, I believe in Portal 2 you do come across the dry dock it was stored in Aperture Labs.
Wow, please bring it together, Valve. I want it. You're making...
Alright, so let's talk about this elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The relationship between Portal and Half-Life.
There are a lot of points where Aperture Science is mentioned, or vice versa, with Black Mesa being mentioned in Portal.
Right, well, Dr. Kleiner, in episode 2, after the Borealis is revealed, he does say, our peers over at Aperture Science were working on a project.
Yeah.
And from a more meta standpoint, Portal Gun, I think it is based off of the Gravity Gun. They have very similar designs.
Yeah, they do.
It definitely is. They probably fucked with gravity so much they can teleport.
What I'd be interested in, though, is, like, when does, like, this all take place compared to, like, Half-Life, like, the Portal games?
Couple 100 years in the future, I believe.
I think it's further, because in the beginning of Portal 2, when you wake up from slumber, it says you have been asleep for 9999 years or something like that. So I think Portal 2 takes place in the far future.
Would not be surprising.
And also, just to further confirm that Half-Life and Portal take place in the same universe, at the end of Portal 1, GLaDOS' song Still Alive, that's a classic, she directly mentions Black Mesa by name, so there's that.
Yeah.
And then there's the line, when I look up there, it makes me glad I'm not you, referring to the surface. I always interpreted that as GLaDOS hinting at the Combine's invasion of Earth, which is ongoing at the time, or maybe they've already taken control, so the surface is just absolutely fucked at this point.
I mean, I wouldn't want to go up there either. I don't think they even season their food.
Speaking of GLaDOS, Overwatch, the broadcast of the Combine, are read by Ellen McLean, who voices GLaDOS, and the administrator in Team Fortress 2. Half-Life 2 in Episode 1, she's just kind of speaking in a fairly monotone voice, but in Episode 2, the Overwatch voice, she is going full GLaDOS. Speaking of Ellen McLean, her husband, John Patrick Laurie, he voices pretty much every male civilian in Half-Life 2.
Good shot, mate!
I just hear sniper, but without the Australian accent.
Man, I wish one of them said good shot, mate. Or good shot, Freeman.
We talked about the opening City 17 segment, but let's talk about the Ravenholm segment.
Ooh, yes. So Ravenholm is one of those levels that really bring to light what would have happened if the Nihilinth actually took over Earth.
Which would have been absolutely horrible.
It's just plenty of horror-esque elements, a definite shift in tone, and to be honest, this is where your gravity gun starts to come in handy, especially with those circular saws, if you know what I mean.
Circular saws of death. I'm all for, like, anything horror in a video game. Like, I like it. Especially, it's really fitting for something like this game, where in the first one, it was kind of all about that horror aspect, but then they bring it all back here in this point, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and not to mention, I feel like this one really shows you the power of the gravity gun and how fun it is to just pick up and throw things. I can just remember this one time, there was, I think, 5 of the spider zombie or whatever, and I took a table and I just kept throwing it at him, and it was the best thing ever. I felt like a WWE superstar.
Beat him with the table. I mean, the gravity gun definitely is fun to just kind of like pick stuff up and just chuck it at enemies.
Yeah, also not to mention it's useful because it does save you ammo, so...
Yeah, the gravity gun. Such a cool idea, so innovative, I have to say.
I think it's a very interesting weapon, very unique, especially for the time. I don't remember very many games before then even really doing much with gravity in general.
It feels like a developer tool given to the players.
The style of it is very reminiscent of the portal gun as well.
Kind of makes you think a little bit in combat, especially using your environment, which I thought was another level that Half-Life 2 needed and incorporated really well.
Yeah, it's just such a very distinctive weapon, not just in terms of its look, but also in its usage.
Yeah.
Pick up larger objects, throw them, give a little zappity zap to certain things. Giving the player the gravity gun allowed map makers and developers to be a little more creative with the layout of certain things. Like, oh, since the player can do this with this gravity gun, we can make this puzzle or this obstacle that they can overcome. It really makes you think about how you approach certain things.
There's one gun in there that I particularly liked. Call me traditional and call me old, but I think the pump shotty was very old reliable.
The shotgun is definitely my most used weapon. It's just, yeah, like you said, it's just old reliable. It deals a lot of damage. You find plenty of ammo for it throughout the game. Yeah, the shotgun I think was my go-to for most enemies.
And it's not really a game that encouraged you to take behind cover a distance away and shoot. It's not like Call of Duty games or whatever. You don't have too much of a disadvantage by just rushing in with the shotgun.
Yeah, the shotgun was always my go-to. The SMG, I guess, is useful for what it is, and especially later on when you get the explosives you can shoot out of it, that was definitely useful for taking down bigger enemies or groups, but the SMG was always more of a fallback weapon for me.
I mean, the bug bait was always fun to use, though. I enjoyed that weapon.
Yeah, it goes squish.
I liked being the queen.
Come, my children, defeat my enemies for me.
I tell you what, two of my favorite weapons to use, the crossbow and the revolver. Oh, the crossbow. I love how it pins enemies to the wall.
In a lot of games, that tends to be my go-to, but I didn't really use it that much in Half-Life 2 for some reason.
Ammo is a little scarce for it, but when you land shots, it can one-shot most enemies, so it's always satisfying to just put a bolt through a Combine soldier's head.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like, playing Gmod and messing with the crossbow and that, and always having fun just pinning people to walls.
The crossbow, it's really the only reliable long-range weapon in the game as well, so it's the closest thing to a sniper.
With the RPG, did any of you guys have issues with actually hitting things with it?
The gunships were a bit annoying, but...
I struggled with using the RPG, hitting anything that moved.
Yeah, the RPG... It's funny to see the rocket take a whole circle around to kind of hit your target. It's just like if you were to somehow laser the wall for some goofy reason while tracking your target, oh, now it's coming at you and you gotta fix its trajectory again, and now it's shot down by the gunship. That was the most annoying part, but
Yeah, the RPG, the rocket launcher, it takes some getting used to that you have to guide it, but I don't know, I think it works well, and again, it helps make the combat of Half-Life 2 stand out a bit.
I think I just didn't give it enough chances probably, so it was kind of like left to the wayside. I tried to like use it occasionally occasionally, but it just never went well, so...
Well, up until the end of episode 2, it's the only defense you have, the only reliable defense against Striders.
Yeah, I died a lot.
The revolver, though, just to back up a little bit, yeah, in Half-Life 1 it was super powerful, but it's still pretty powerful here. I was honestly surprised you pick it up pretty early on. I think you pick it up during the airboat segment from a drop soldier.
Right, and I was like, holy shit, I'm about to be so fucking badass. And I realized it took like 2 or 3 shots to take down the soldier, and I'm like, oh.
It is sad when they bring in a weapon from like a past game, and that's just not what it used to be, because that's what you're hoping for, and that's what's so cool about seeing it again, is that, oh yeah, I can use this again, but not have that same feel.
Because of that reason, I used the revolver less.
Yeah, it also didn't help that, again, ammo wasn't common for the revolver. It would come and go in spurts, but I do like the revolver. I don't know what it is about the revolver in Half-Life, but it feels like it has such a weight to it, you know? It's like you feel how heavy it is. Maybe it's the animation, how Gordon reloads it, and the sound effect, the firing sound it makes, and the damage it deals. Probably a combination of all the above, but the revolver in Half-Life just feels weighty.
There's the plasma rifle. Let's talk about that.
I love the little animation it does to reload. It just reloads itself, just putting the energy, whatever you call it, into itself like a vending conveyor belt.
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique gun.
It's alternate fire. It fires a big energy ball that bounces everywhere.
The bounty ball.
Take my balls, Combine.
It instantly vaporizes hunters.
I always enjoyed using it whenever I got it, because it felt a lot more powerful than a lot of the other weapons.
Yeah, I think it was the most powerful rapid fire weapon. It's much more powerful than the SMG.
Yeah, that's for sure. What about the base pistol? So, the base pistol was alright. I mean, it took out head crabs from a distance. That was the reason why I liked it.
I feel like this is pretty universal for a lot of games, is a pistol is pretty typical of your starting weapon, so once you get a few more weapons, there's not a whole lot of use for it. It's just always kind of there as a backup if need be, so as the game went on, I used the pistol less and less, mostly to just take out head crabs or something from a distance.
Yeah, it just remains your backup. You start off with it, and it's great for like what you need it for at the very beginning. It does the job, but then over time, it's just kind of there as a backup.
Would you say the pistol is probably your least favorite weapon in the game, just by order of elimination?
Yeah, because at least the SMG, I can do a lot more DPS, damage per second, for those of you. And with the pistol, even though I get that accuracy, I've only used it as pest control.
I actually use the pistol more than I use the SMG.
I was surprised we never got an actual sniper rifle, because Combine soldiers can use them at various points. Alex picks one up in episode 1. Why couldn't I say that correctly? Yeah, so kind of weird that Gordon never gets his hand on a sniper rifle, but oh well, what can you do?
Yeah, and because I would have had a lot of fun with that. I enjoy using snipers in a lot of different games.
Although I guess there's not really a whole lot of long-range combat in this, and the few times you do, you got the crossbow, so...
Yeah.
What about the grenades? The grenades were kind of fun to toss around at Combine soldiers, because sometimes they'll be like, oh shit.
Yeah, I love the little dialogue option, which, again, to kind of give credit where it's due, it makes them more human, I guess, having those interactions.
Where now that's like more of like a normal thing in modern games, but back then I don't remember it showing up very much in games like with the, like reactions to grenades.
Halo had the plasma grenades, and grunts would react to it.
Grunts and the Marines, yeah, they did, but besides that, I guess I just don't see as much interaction from the AI.
Although it was always so cathartic to use the gravity gun whenever they would throw a grenade at you and just, back at you, pal.
Fling it back. Let's play catch.
I don't like this game.
Oh, come on. It's called Hot Potato for a reason.
And next, Casual Cafe, we all play Hot Potato with a live grenade.
All right, who pulled the pin on this one?
I honestly used, like, the crowbar probably way more in this game than I should have. Like, if I had the chance and I was close enough to an enemy, I was just using the crowbar.
They nerfed the crowbar so much.
I know. They really did. And it got me killed.
It insta-kills head crabs.
Yeah, it does insta-kill head crabs.
Those fucking poison head crabs where they attack you and always drop your HP down to 0. I know they don't actually kill you, but they would always jump scare me.
I remember when I first started playing on the game for the first time after playing Half-Life 1 and just like running up with a crowbar to smack someone and just it being like, wait, why aren't you dead yet? And just dying myself.
We don't go to Raven home for a reason.
I always appreciate it when games, usually first-person shooters, have a sudden horror game section like this. Mm-hmm. Halo had the introduction to the Flood, Resistance. They had a few moments like this. It's just always so interesting and fun. Well, not fun may not be the optimal word, but when an otherwise action-heavy first-person shooter game suddenly devolves into a horror game. You are in an enclosed space, it's dark, you're isolated, there's weird ambient noises that are unsettling, and there's a whole bunch of monsters coming out to get you.
Yeah.
Ravenholm feels so thrilling and also tense as well, which is a fun combination.
The one thing that made me think of, and this is very off topic, but like Resident Evil 8, have you guys both played through that game?
No.
I have.
Okay, I'm not gonna say anything then. Cut that thought. I don't want to spoil anything for Garrett.
Yeah, we'll cover it, I'm sure, one day.
I get what you're referring to, though.
But yeah, you know, like where you just suddenly are helpless at that one point in the game?
With Ravenholm, it's right after you meet up with the Resistance, you get a gravity gun, but suddenly you're all alone again. Ammo is very scarce, so it's like Resident Evil in that sense. You gotta know when to use your guns or use your gravity gun. And personally, I just liked picking up the saw blades with the gravity gun and just slicing headcrab zombies in half. That was always so satisfying.
I like to pick up like bludgeoning type items because I just found it funny just smacking them with something versus just something actually deadly. I mean, it got me killed a lot because you don't do quite as much damage.
Like I said earlier about how the world of Half-Life has a lot of dark and disturbing implications, this one is less of an implication because you do see it in action, but the headcrab carrier missiles, what the Combine do whenever there's an area filled with resistance, they just shoot missiles into the area full of headcrabs and let them do the work.
Yeah, it's a really fucked up version of like a biological warfare.
Yeah, it's the alien sci-fi equivalent of flinging like plague-ridden corpses into an enemy's castle.
Yeah, this is something that the UN would ban from war. This would be a war crime.
I mentioned Resistance earlier, but I think that game may have taken the idea because there's a very similar concept in those games with aliens as well, alien parasites.
Okay.
Sir, it's getting pretty annoying sending our forces down there, and they're kind of getting restless. How about we just fling poo at them? Those head grabs, like, I really started missing them when the experimental head crabs started coming in. Like, I kind of call them jockey head crabs.
The fast-running head crabs. Those things freak me out. I don't like running zombies.
No, I don't either. Those are horrifying.
Zombies are supposed to be slow and stupid. Fast zombies in any capacity, I'm just nope. And head crab zombies are even worse because they're not just fast zombies. They got elongated claws. They got a head crab skull on them. Their skin is so torn apart and burnt, and the screams they make. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, like, zombies are scary enough, but when it starts sprinting at you at full force, like, it's like, oh no, this thing is worse than just a human being chasing me.
During Ravenholm, I forgot that the fast headcrab zombies can climb up the drain pipes up to building rooftops. I'm just standing there on top of the roof like, okay, I'm safe up here, and then I see the pipe shaking, and I'm like,
it's like,
fuck.
oh, fuck.
Well, good thing we had Father Gregory there to help us.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, Father Grigori. He is a former priest of Ravenholm, and he's the lone survivor. And I think he's gone not completely insane, but 90% of the way.
He's getting there.
I'm pretty sure Father Gregory, because, like, for some reason, I got the impression that Gregory was a criminal of sorts that just happened to end up in Ravenholm and then found a safe haven with God. And then decided to become the priest of Ravenholm, even though it's just already batshit crazy. There's no people here.
He definitely has a drinking problem. And it is both, I don't want to say touching, but also touching and disturbing that he refers to the zombie citizens as his flock, his followers.
Well, one thing that I see, like, looking into him is that he is like a Eastern Orthodox Christian priest. He isn't just an actual priest.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible that he wasn't a priest and he just sort of turned to that after everything went down, but my personal interpretation is he was a priest, but after everything went to hell and Ravenholm, became zombie central, he just went batshit insane.
Yeah, it does say, like, Gregory is a priest that survived in Ravenholm.
Man, Ravenholm is such a great example of telling a story just through visuals, because you see all these traps, all these corpses, all these leftover remains from the headcrab infestation, and you're left to wonder, what's the story here? Like, the backstory. What exactly went down here?
That's something I love in games, too, is that bit of mystery like that, and...
Environmental storytelling, that's the phrase.
Yes, that is what it is. I wish games did that a bit more, and because, like, when they just don't straight up tell you stuff, where I feel like games a lot of times nowadays is plainly like, here's this, oh, you find this book, here's all the lore that you were looking for. A lot of games don't just give you that time to just wonder and ponder and, like, what is this?
Show, don't tell. That's one of the biggest things.
Garrett, you've played The Last of Us. We've done an episode on it. Do you think maybe The Last of Us took some inspiration from Ravenholm for Billstown?
Oh, for sure.
Could just be a coincidence.
No,
but...
I think there was a big influence. At least there was always kind of like that trope where there would be some guy who's just super good at zombie apocalypse because they're so fucking paranoid. And that just really fits with Gregory and Bill. And I think there's another person in the Walking Dead series. But either way, yes. The Last of Us. Okay, again, I gotta say how lovely it is. Oh man, if I'm thinking about it, at least the clickers, like, I know it's not actually a reference. Like, it's like the whole mushroom thing or whatever. But now that I'm looking back on it, it kind of reminds me of head crabs a little bit.
Well, head crabs can be traced back to facehuggers from Alien, so it all goes back.
It's a circle.
Oh boy, I can't wait until the live-action Half-Life series where we find out that Father Grigori had a boyfriend in Ravenholm and they lived together very happily and romantically, and then I feel sad at the end.
Aww.
They're both insane together.
I will say, though, Father Gregory went down in a literal wall of fire.
It's unconfirmed if he dies or not.
True, but I like to say he did die. He was tending his flock.
I guess.
This is my last sermon kind of deal. Like, let's go into the fiery pits of hell together kind of thing.
Fair enough.
Well, after Ravenholm, we should talk about the vehicle sections of this, because there's three technically, vehicle segments in these Half-Life games. The first one is the airboat section, the mud skipper, where you have to get on this airboat and fly/swim, whatever the term is, down the empty drain canals, fending off Combine security.
Kill them all.
I did enjoy it, but I don't know. Okay, in overall, the driving controls kind of were too rigid, is what I want to say.
Yeah, I didn't really like the vehicle parts. It felt like a second thought instead of like a main part of the game.
I will say, I think the dune buggy and car sections were better than the airboat. The airboat,
Yeah.
I don't know. Those controls, I did not like steering the boat. It just did not want to steer right for me.
Was it just me or did the dune buggy feel really bouncy?
Yeah, it was bouncy. It didn't really turn that well.
Drifty. It was a lot of things.
It felt so I really don't like the vehicle parts at all.
Would I drive it in the bayou of Louisiana? Hell yeah. Would I drive it to try to get to a big red barn while being chased down by a million Combine individuals? No.
One moment during the airboat segment that stood out to me as being kind of funny was when you meet up with a resistance outpost and you park the airboat. One of them takes you inside his office to like, okay, Gordon, here's a map. Keep going in the direction you're going. And then you walk back out to the airboat and now there's a gun attached. And I'm like, I get it was there to take the player's attention away from the airboat so the gun could be attached to it, but it just boils down to a guy being like, hey Gordon, this is the map. Okay, yep.
Here's a gun.
When'd that get here?
I really wish we got like a little America, fuck yeah.
Don't say fucking day.
airboat segment I could take or leave, wasn't really my favorite, but the dune buggy segment I thought was a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I did enjoy the Doom Buggy, especially against another enemy that we can talk about now, the Ant Lions.
Ah, the ant lions. At first, they're just creepy bug alien things. Kind of gives me Starship Trooper vibes. But I don't know, after you gain the theropod weapon, which kind of looks like a baked pastry, I just wanted to take a bite out of that theropod. I don't know, maybe that says more about me, but
Yeah.
when I picked up the theropod, I'm like, I could see this on a bakery shelf somewhere.
Tasty.
Just to be like the ew, gross, but it tastes delicious kind of stuff. Just not in the kitchen kind of thing.
I see what you mean by them like you're looking like something out of Starship Troopers now that you mention it.
They crawl out of the sand and they swarm you, and they're weak, but there's a lot of them at any given time.
I died an embarrassing amount of times in this area.
Yeah, especially when the big antlion guards come out, the big ones. Those ones are basically mini boss fights.
I honestly learned just how bad I am at this game by playing it. It's like, I suck at Half-Life 2.
The sequence where you have to not step on the sand or else you'll summon the antlion's attention, you gotta keep jumping across various objects. It's a fun puzzle, and it encourages you to think outside the box with the gravity gun of how you're gonna build a path, but after some point, I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna run across and heal up later.
It's like, you just get tired of doing that.
Yeah. Once you get to Nova Prospect, the Combine prison, you gain the Theropod, which allows you to control the antlions. So what'd you guys think of this turn of events? Your little mini army of antlions.
It was cool.
I loved it. I wanted to adopt all of them. They were going to
They're my friends now. I am their leader.
I am the queen.
Gordon turns to the antlions. Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
They just be running across the hallway.
I did feel a little bad sending all these antlions to their deaths. Just, hey, take out that turret nest over there for me. But, well, sacrifices must be made.
For the greater good of me.
Yeah, Nova Prospect. So, originally it was a prison, but the Combine turned it into, I don't even know what it is. It's like, not a labor camp, but it's a prison/conversion center. Like, they're turning the prisoners into stalkers, like these dried out zombie husk things.
Those things were creepy.
The part in the train in episode 1 where the power goes out and then they all start screaming. Ugh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Gives you like shivers down your spine.
This is the clown party.
This is why we don't take public transport, kids. But yeah, Nova Prospect. So its design was based off of Alcatraz.
No, okay, that's cool.
Which, fun fact, Half-Life 2 was first announced at E3 in 2003, which showed off some of the early footage of the game. Originally, Half-Life 2 was going to come out in September of 2003. It was delayed. However, the graphics card manufacturer ATI had already made some arrangements that the game was coming out, so they said, look, we got to do something for a promotional event. So they hosted a little mini convention at Alcatraz Island where Gabe Newell made an appearance.
Wow.
So there was a moment in time you could go to Alcatraz Island and meet Gabe Newell.
Talk about history.
Oh yeah, while we're on the subject, Half-Life 2 infamously was leaked in October by a German hacker, Axel Gembe.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that.
And Gabe Newell tried to catch him by setting up a fake job interview in America where he wanted the FBI to catch him.
What the fuck?
Instead, like, the German police caught him and he was sentenced to 3 years probation.
What the hell?
Yeah, he didn't fall for it, but I'm like, props for trying. You were gonna get him then. Fucking red wedding,
my
that
God.
asshole. When you take a swing at the king, you best not miss, bitch.
Damn.
What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, Nova Prospect. So the reason Gordon and Alex are there is because that's where Eli Vance was taken by the Combine and they're trying to rescue him. What do you guys think of the Nova Prospect segment of the game?
I did enjoy it being that it's like a siege mission and there was just a missed opportunity to be like a super stealth mission.
I don't like stealth missions in games. I would not have liked that.
But I love it.
Gordon hides inside a cardboard box.
Here's the thing. I like to do stealth, but I don't like to be forced into it. I hate being forced to do stealth.
Yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from. On one hand, while it would have been cool if we had done a little bit more of a sneaking infiltration type into Nova Prospect, on the other hand, I also like the route they took with it, where Gordon just shows up with an army of antlions by his back and just fucks the Combine up. It also turns into kind of a tower defense game at one point where Alex hacks into the sentry guns and you just lay them out throughout the prison in various key locations. That was fun.
Yes.
Oh, guys, I just remembered. We forgot to mention the goodest, bestest boy in all of Half-Life, Dog.
Dog.
How could we forget?
The best boy.
That gorilla robot.
That beautiful hunk of engineering.
He could kill us all if we're not on his side.
Here's the thing, though. Dog is probably the only machine that I will die for.
What about Wally?
Wally's the best.
No.
You wouldn't die for Wally.
What about the Terminator?
Oh, of course.
Would you die for
He
Arnold?
gave us a thumbs up.
Fuck, why didn't I think of that?
Android 16.
R2-D2.
Well, okay.
Point is, robots good. We should all respect robots.
Yes, because one day they'll be our overlords.
Anyway, so Dog.
We're just gonna gloss over that.
So Dog, yeah. I gotta say, it really says a lot about Dog's expressiveness and characterization that they make you sympathize and fall in love with this gorilla robot thing that doesn't even speak and doesn't really have a face. His quote-unquote face is just a light bulb with metal flaps around it.
In any other setting, you just see this as just like a random hostile enemy or something.
I had the same thought. I thought, like, if Dog was not on your side in a different context, he'd be like a Combine sentinel or guard or something.
Yeah, but then they sit there and make Dog this most lovable, adorable robot that's just this huge, hunking beast of a robot.
And Alex is like, good boy, who's a good boy? Go get your ball. And his ball is like this giant metal thing.
Everyone loves Dog.
He picks up a full-on van, and Alex is like, Dog, no, bad, put it down.
Put it down. That's not for you to play with. But I just love how, like, we have this machinery robot thing, and the name that they decide to choose, Dog.
Well, I mean, Alex says that Dr. Kleiner built the original Dog model for her when she was like 5 years old, so something tells me she wasn't the most creative. I mean, when I was a kid, I had a pet bearded dragon I named Godzilla, because why not? I was like 10 years old. I was not good at naming things.
I mean, I named my dog Diamond because she had two like diamond-shaped like white patches on the back of her neck.
A diamond dog.
Dog is the savior of the universe.
Do not disrespect Dog.
Here's a fun fact. In the very early concept art released for Half-Life 2, Dog was originally going to be a female alien pet of Alex named Skitch.
Skitch?
Oh, that's
Ew.
interesting. I wonder how that would have looked.
Would have been this, like, dog rodent creature.
Oh.
They decided to change it to a robot, which I think is a bit cooler, but...
It's better.
We all love Dog. I think we're all happy with the choice they made in the end.
The moment in episode 1 where, in order to get into the Citadel across the ravine, Alex and Gordon get into the car and then Dog just throws them in.
That's the best.
I want that to be a theme park ride. You're just in the sea, all of a sudden you're sliding all over the Citadel. That to me felt very much like a theme park attraction.
That'd be cool.
Oh man, a Valve amusement park. Hey, we got Nintendo Land. What about Valve Land?
If that existed, we would all go together.
Instead of the Tower of Terror drop, there's just one of those infinite portal drops where there's a portal on the ceiling and then a portal on the floor.
Like the CSGO section is just like a bunch of like airsoft fields.
All right, kids, we're going to CSGO World. Who wants to be the hostage that gets taken by the terrorist?
Little Jimmy does.
Who wants to plant the bomb?
I love giving bombs out to wannabe terrorists.
But yeah, the moment in episode 2 where Dog takes down a Strider single-handedly.
Best boy.
One of the more cinematic moments of the game.
And also just shows some of Dog's just sheer power.
He also, I don't think he kills one of the Combine advisors, but he does deal a lot of damage to it and saves Gordon and Alex at the very end.
You remember when Dog was just manhandling the Strider?
I really like the Strider enemies. They're very much inspired by the tripods from War of the Worlds, so whenever you see a Strider, they're just adding to that classic alien invasion trope, that sort of vibe to it.
And not to mention, there was one scene with the Strider when it was walking over the rubble, when Dr. Kleiner was giving out that speech about getting busy. You kind of seen in the distance over the rubble just a Strider walking. And to me, that was like amazing kind of event to kind of witness.
I don't know how true this is, but what I've heard is that, like, it wasn't with War of Worlds when it first aired on, like, radio. Didn't, like, people actually think it's something that's actually happening?
I've heard conflicting things about how widespread that is. I think the consensus is that it's exaggerated how many people actually believed it.
But there were people who did.
Yeah, it's just not as many people fell for it as the urban legends would have you believe. Anyway, just to circle back to the Striders, as you were saying, Garrett, you do see a Strider early on in the game in the streets of City 17 just walking about, and that puts it into your head right at the beginning just what kind of power are we dealing with here as far as the Combine are concerned.
Yeah, it's like, that's nothing that we have. That is far beyond us.
Fighting those Striders was a bitch.
The rooftop battle.
Well, believe it or not, the rooftop battle only took me like, I think, 2 tries. I was lucky, I think, because that seemed like a really hard battle.
Yeah, I guess the plaza battle in front of the museum or whatever it is building, that one was a bit more difficult because of the space between ammunition for the rocket launcher.
Right, that was... what a chore. But this one was the most annoying. And I think I just sucked with the gravity gun at this point.
The last one in episode 2 where you have to defend the base.
It took me 4 tries.
Yeah, that was not a fun time.
I died a few times.
It was mostly because of the hunters, how they could knock the bombs away.
Oh, it was always something different. Every time I died for a different reason.
Although I will say, when you finally plant that sticky bomb onto the Strider and blow it up, that's catharsis right there.
Finally, I did it.
Apparently, according to one of the developers, the Strider's movements were based off of giraffes.
What? Really? I would never have gotten that. That's like more spider looking to me.
If spiders were the size of giraffes.
Now that I think about it, I do kind of see that.
They're surprisingly elegant when they want to be, like whenever they would duck down or suddenly move out of a projectile's way.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I didn't realize it could do that.
And the sound they make whenever you kill one, that long wail they make. Again, like the Vortigaunt speech, it's just so alien, but both sinister and also cathartic because, hey, you just killed a Strider, but it's very haunting of a noise.
Are the Striders like actual just living things?
I think they're cyborgs. I think they're organic aliens, but they've been outfitted with weaponry.
Okay. So they're just big creatures that are like, I want to make you into my army. It's the future of the antlions in Gordon's hands.
Dr. Kleiner, you can't put frickin' laser beams on frickin' antlions.
Who says I can't?
Science isn't about why, it's about why not. Why can't we mate with Striders?
No, it's immoral. Stop it. It can't consent.
When I said everyone needed to start having sex, I was referring to the Vortigaunts. What that third arm doing?
It's giving a handshake, like after a job well done.
You know what enemy I found annoying? The manhacks, those flying Beyblade looking things.
Really? I don't know. I liked them.
I mean, they were cool, but until you get the gravity gun, they are a bit annoying. By the time you get the gravity gun, you can just pick them and flick them against a cinder block or whatever. But up until that point, yeah, they're just kind of flying around, buzzing all over the place. They're hard to hit. At least maybe my aim just sucks, but...
For me, they weren't really a huge issue. They were just annoying. Like, they were kind of like having to deal with like dogs or whatever in other video games. It's like they're not a big issue, they're just annoying.
Like, to me, the headhunters were not... They weren't that annoying to me.
For me, it was just because they were hard to take down. Not that they had a lot of health, they were just hard to hit. They were flying all over the place and they're small.
It's like a nuisance.
My ears would perk up every time you hear that blade sound.
Oh, yeah. That blade sound gives you like PTSD like throughout the game.
Like the antlions, it's easy to get swarmed by them if there's a lot at once. They can just shred your health down.
Yeah.
That's why they go in packs. Look at the wild.
Surprisingly, I only died once to those.
I never died to them, but they were just annoying.
I intentionally died so that I could go back and grab the health pack because I dropped it down a chasm.
I chose to die.
I know we're jumping all over the place, but let's talk about the assault on the Citadel, which is the big climax of Half-Life 2. So, the Citadel, this giant fuck-off tower in the middle of City 17. And Valve specifically wanted the Citadel to just be huge, super tall, taller than pretty much anything humanity has ever built. And I think they accomplished the goal. The Citadel, I think that Valve said they had to adjust the skyline, like the skybox of City 17's map whenever the Citadel was in view, just because of how tall it was.
Well, we gotta make the map bigger.
In the climax of the game, the resistance is finally rising up. Gordon and Alex and Barney and all them, they're assaulting the Citadel. You get in, and Dr. Breen is just, he is melting down. He is like, why are you doing this? Haven't I done a good job as your benevolent dictator?
No.
Just let me have my chocolate cake in peace.
He's trying to convince Gordon to just give up and surrender.
Oh, alright, I'm sorry, bro. I'll head out.
At one point, he's like, think, man, think! Look what we need to mimic a fraction of the Combine's power!
When he said the line, I'm just like, I couldn't help but think of Invincible.
He's a sore loser when you're raiding the Citadel.
I don't like playing this game anymore. I want to switch sides.
I just wanted to sit in my office and watch the Combine commit mass genocide and slavery, but right before you jump into the Citadel with Barney, he says, be sure to tell Dr. Breen I said fuck you. Although I couldn't help but think, Barney, you know Gordon can't relay the message for you.
He's kind of mute. Yeah.
Garrett, you pointed this out, and I caught it as well, and I'm glad you caught it likewise. When you're riding in the pod across the Citadel, it feels very much like a dark reprise of the Black Mesa train commute from the previous game.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, we're looking through the window instead of Black Mesa and the Citadel, and
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
it was a great callback, and I love the sequence, and I love that we just kind of, in Dr. Breen's words, wrapped ourselves up and gave it to him. That's literally what we did at the end of the ride. But the train, all the different machines, and kind of coming close to death and close to being sort of detected, I guess, multiple times. It's like Dr. Breen didn't actually know we were coming up through that. We just kind of hopped on the right one, but it seems like maybe the Combine was watching us and saw us get in and is like, all right, that seems like a Dr. Gordon Freeman thing to do.
Being like a nice like kind of callback to the first game is that I really like the first game's like just intro like with that ride, because it just kind of, you're sitting there seeing everything around you, how massive Black Mesa is and everything. It's nice for it to just kind of call back to that, because I did really enjoy that intro section of the game.
Contrasting the hustle and bustle human activity of Black Mesa with the artificial emptiness and control of the Combine Citadel. Although I must say, Combine architecture is OSHA approved, because they do in fact have guardrails.
Oh, crap. They got everything. Mr. Freeman, I can't afford dental.
Do they have fire extinguishers and fire detectors?
No, usually whenever a fire starts, we just throw whoever the smallest one is on to put it out. Only works about half the time.
The other half of the time, the whole building just burns down.
It's during this raid, you fall into a confiscation field where most of Gordon's weapons are taken away from him, except one.
The gravity gun.
And not only does Gordon get to keep the gravity gun, but it is now supercharged. It's blue now.
It's the blue
Hell yeah.
gravity gun.
Literally, you become a force user with this thing. You can grab anything and anyone.
I love just like grabbing people and just flinging them onto walls and shit.
Yeah, I've mentioned this before with games that have had a similar sequence, but I always enjoy this moment in the end of a game, this 11th hour superpower, where a game is like, you know what, fuck it, you're at the climax, we're giving you the most overpowered shit.
Yeah, we're just gonna make it where all these people are literally now cannon fodder. They mean nothing. The only thing that matters now is the boss.
I remember it would be like the guy who's across the map and I'm bringing him. Can you imagine like how his friends probably looked at it like, what the fuck?
when can it do that?
It's Gordon. Let's all rush him 4 people at a time. Yeah, but the superpowered gravity gun, you can pick up Combine soldiers, toss them around. You can pick up objects like 5 times your size. You can shock them with a bolt of energy. Become the true Freeman with this.
Cue doom music.
Yeah, it's very just overpowered. And I understand why they don't give you those abilities earlier on in the game, because there would have been no difficulty to the game.
Well, yeah, it's the part in the game where the developers are just saying, you've earned this.
It reminds me of when I played Kingdom Hearts 300 and whatever days. I keep on forgetting the number.
58.
Yeah. Where when you get to that end of the game, they're just like, all right, you're powerful now. Just go fight the boss. All enemies are just nothing.
And then you finally catch up with Dr. Breen, and he's speaking with a Combine advisor, those big grub cyborg things on the screen. And he's like, what? You can't teleport me to those coordinates. I'll die. A host body? Well, maybe. Oh shit, it's Gordon. So this kind of leads me into a theory of mine about the Combine advisors, because Dr. Breen, he's about to be teleported to safety, well, relative safety, from the Citadel to somewhere else by the advisor. But as he points out, based on the coordinates, a human body could not survive. And they want to put his consciousness into a host body. So I have a theory. What if the Combine advisors are actually members of different species put into the same body? They put their minds into these grub advisor, like they are the chosen members of conquered races, is what I'm getting at.
That is an interesting thought. Seems plausible.
It is possible, but I guess my headcanon is refusing because I believe, alright, hear me out, is that it's kind of like we got the Combine larvae, as I'll describe them. They're the ones that we see toward the end of episode 2 in Half-Life and also on throughout the screens. There's more than just one mind in those larvae, and they kind of like multiple personalities that kind of like come into head and influence the larvae's power, maybe. And I think with that kind of charismatic, the Combine learns and becomes more intelligent and psychologically powerful.
Right, because we see throughout episode 2, the advisor starts off with fairly straightforward telekinetic powers, but by the end, it's become much more powerful. So it is evolving over time.
Becoming powerful. Learning how to defeat Gordon Freeman.
Alright, so Half-Life 2, released in 2004, and it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. It ends with Gordon and Alex blowing up the Citadel's core, presumably killing Dr. Breen in the process. Not gonna lie, felt a little bit of sympathy for the devil, with his last words being, "You need me." I feel like maybe Dr. Breen just wanted to feel like he was needed by someone this whole time.
Well, your mother never loved you, and I don't either.
In reality, he was just very lonely.
Oh, well, fuck it, he was an asshole.
Fuck that guy.
But it ends right as the core explodes and the G-Man shows up. Time, Dr. Freeman?
It seems that they are all out of time.
The G-Man. Let's talk about the G-Man.
Man, what a wired bastard. Looks like he's always on methamphetamine.
Wake up and smell the ashes. We do learn a little bit of information about the G-Man throughout these games. Like I said earlier, we learned that he was the one that more or less kicked off the resonance cascade in the previous game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to jump into my theory, just because the resonance cascade thing. Basically, the G-Man, he is an entity that causes chaos in order to up his business, because he does look like a businessman with his briefcase. Well, what's his business? What is he selling?
What is he buying?
What you buying?
Yeah, he's selling galactic mercenaries. basically those that are the cream of the crop and gives it to the highest bidder and sends them on their way. But it's very interesting, though. It kind of contradicts the idea. Why are we back in Earth, I guess? Like, why would they hire us to go back to Earth? I feel like G-Man is just playing God at this point.
He seems to have kind of like ideas of like what's to come. So he has some kind of like future knowledge, it feels like a lot of times. So it's like, I wonder if, like, my idea is like he might be some kind of someone in the future or some kind of external being from a like basic known reality or something. He's trying to like create a better outcome of what happened, but he has to make sure certain events happen not to too much fuck with the timeline. Like, it's small changes, not massive changes.
Basically, he's overseeing the plot, essentially. He's making sure certain key moments occur in a way that they're more or less supposed to.
But at the same time, trying to, like, correct maybe a better course of, like, what originally might have happened in an original timeline.
My theory about the G-Man is that I think that there is a third faction involved in all this. One that is not with the Combine, not with Earth, but an unknown, largely undescribed faction that the G-Man refers to as his employers. I think that the G-Man, he's the middleman between their faction and everything going on with the Combine and Earth. They're not necessarily directly opposed to the Combine, but taking down the Combine is just one of their objectives. It's one part of a grander scheme. And I think that they have interest in powerful individuals like what Garrett is suggesting, that Gordon is one of these individuals. I think Gordon proved himself in the first game that he is capable of a lot of destruction, or he's a powerful asset to this faction.
That makes sense.
And so the G-Man is tasked with overseeing this. Basically, my theory is a combination of both of your guys' theories. The G-Man is the overseer, the supervisor, if you will, of Gordon Freeman, or similar individuals like Alex, because as we find out in the events of Half-Life Alyx, as well as in Episode 2, the G-Man has also started looking at Alex as a potential asset as well. I don't necessarily know what the endgame goal of this third faction is, or what the G-Man specifically wants, but I just think that the G-Man is the messenger, essentially, of this third party that is involved with the conflict between the Combine and Earth.
I mean, I do like that theory. It does seem pretty solid.
What I'm interested in, though, is the Vortigaunts and their connection with all of this, because as we see at the start of Episode 1, the G-Man tries to talk with Gordon, but he's prevented by the Vortigaunts. Now, I think, as demonstrated, the Vortigaunts have very powerful telepathic powers, yes. The Vortigaunts are capable, I think when a lot of Vortigaunts get together, they form this very powerful psychic capabilities. Like, they gain very powerful abilities. And I think that they are aware of the third faction.
Maybe they have run into them, and maybe they were kind of enslaved and given to the Nihilinth as kind of like this sort of collaboration, being like, hey, Nihilinth, do you want these Vortigaunts to be your slaves and help you kind of conquer Earth when we make them open a portal to you? And then that just kind of let it down because that third faction already defeated the Vortigaunts once.
I don't think the Vortigaunts are necessarily their own fourth faction. I just think they're tied in with Earth. I think Earth and the Vortigaunts together form their own team, but the Vortigaunts definitely know more about the G-Man than they're letting on.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily know everything about the G-Man and his employers, but they know a lot more context than humanity does, obviously.
Yeah.
I feel like what they might know is not necessarily the employers, but they know of the G-Man.
It's interesting, but also I'm thinking about, like, okay, so back to the Nihilinth thing. So you know how it was all biological? There was not really a speck of sort of metal or anything like that. But if you look at the Vortigaunts' design in the first Half-Life, they are shackled by metal. That is not something we see in the Nihilinth area. So
kind of ties into old folklore about fairies and things, how metal was harmful to them.
That's just kind of why I think the Vortigaunts kind of fought against at least G-Man or something like G-Man. That's why I thought it was a fourth kind of faction. Not really a faction, just a race that happened to run into them and failed where Gordon Freeman succeeded.
And I want to add something onto what you said, Chase, about like when all the Vortigons stuff get together, like they get all these powers. My idea is like, what if it's like the more there are, the stronger it gets, like they all amplify each other.
So like the orcs from 40K.
I don't really know anything about 40K, so I don't know. Oh, sure.
Yeah, but the G-Man, he is just, I just love this character archetype, this unknown, mysterious entity, this figure that both we, the audience, and the characters, we don't know anything about them. We don't know what their end goal is. We don't know whose side they're really on, what they're doing, what they're capable of, where does their authority end, if at all. They are just this complete wild card question mark enigma.
And in more recent, like, gaming stuff, it's like with Baldur's Gate 3, we have Withers, who is very similar in that sense of archetype. Well, we don't really know anything about him. He seems to be on our side, or at least we benefit each other in some way. And he knows so much information. He's obviously very powerful.
Yeah, or the mysterious Hat Man in Red Dead Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
David Lynch in Twin Peaks, he utilized this a lot. And the G-Man definitely gives me David Lynch Twin Peaks vibes just as a character. So maybe that's why I'm so attached to him. But you see this archetype from time to time, and I just love it. It is just such a fascinating, intriguing, and ominous character.
They're just something to ponder on because you never really know. It allows you to be creative, come up with your own ideas. What are they?
Exactly. Like, I don't think the G-Man, obviously, I don't think he's human. I just think he's taking on the appearance of a human. And the way he talks as well fuels into that, where whoever the G-Man is, he doesn't fully understand human language. That's why his speech pattern is so odd.
I know this is too far-fetched, but if the G-Man was somehow tied in being like also part of a revolutionary group against the Combine, like that would be really far-fetched. But
honestly, it feels like they wouldn't be a revolutionary group for how the G-Man comes across. I feel like him and his employers are much more powerful than the Combine. They seem to have like way more power.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, is if the Combine are the next level above humanity on the power scale, the G-Man and his employers are the next level above the Combine.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even feel like they're actually like a physical entity.
Yeah, they're like the Q from Star Trek.
Yeah.
That said, they're not fans of the Combine either.
If that is true, if they are so much more powerful than the Combine, then why don't they just do it themselves? I mean, I get
Maybe they don't want to. Maybe it's
Look, I knew this defense was going to come, but if they are so much more powerful, they wouldn't need to employ outer servicery.
What if they can't physically interact in our dimension? That's why they have people like Gordon and Alex. Maybe that's what Gordon and Alex are. They are essentially the figures that the G-Man and his employers turn to and rely on to interact in the physical world. What if the G-Man only exists in the abstract mental world or like another dimension?
They're like an external entity.
What if the G-Man represents us? What if the G-Man represents Valve? He is the developer.
Okay.
What if his employers...
No. Now we're getting too meta.
No philosophy.
Because the singing Vortigaunt you meet in the sewers, he hints at that there are eyes watching through Gordon's eyes.
The machine's broken.
God damn it, we gotta fix it.
The G-Man is Gabe Newell. That is what the G stands for.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
All right. I think we've gone too deep. We need to reel ourselves back from that.
Oh, sure.
To tie all of this back to what my original point, after Half-Life 2 released, it ended on a cliffhanger, which was continued a couple years later on June 1st, 2006. Half-Life 2 Episode 1. 2006. The second season of Invader Zim would air about a week after this. The highest grossing movie at the time was Pixar's Cars, From the Incredibles to Cars.
Such an icon.
Basically, what Valve wanted to do was, after Half-Life 2, they wanted to continue the story and continue to innovate and expand on the gameplay via trilogy of relatively mini games, leading up to eventually Half-Life 3. We'll get into how that ended up in a second here, but Episode Episode 1 is mostly just Gordon and Alex finishing off the remnants of the Citadel, escaping from City 17 because, well, now that the core's gone, the Citadel's about to explode, which, by the way, the section where you have to seal the core inside the Citadel, that felt very much like a classic Half-Life segment to me.
I loved the sort of stakes that were presented to us, especially with us having to fly back into the Citadel and having to go on this painstakingly hard but also fun interaction in the Citadel just to kind of prevent a nuclear explosion.
Well, I don't think it's nuclear. I think it's interdimensional, universal thing. It's like tearing a portal across space-time.
I'm putting it in terms that I can understand.
The amount of, like, energy that would, like, require to do something like that is astronomical.
Well, if certain scripts are anything to go by, the Combine are capable of building a Dyson sphere.
Which is an amazing technological feat.
I think one of the more memorable portions of episode 1 is when you're underground with Alex and there's very little light, but there's a bunch of zombies. And for a portion of it, you don't have your own weapon. You just have a flashlight. So you have to point the flashlight at your target so Alex can shoot it. And I think that's a very interesting game mechanic.
Man, I didn't even notice that. They really thought of everything there. Man, we really need to get a new battery for that thing.
This is also where Alex becomes more quippy. He's like, hey, it's a zombine.
Dude, those zombines were no joke. You give them half health, and they're just like, all right then, pulls out grenade and starts running at you.
See, I always enjoyed when they pulled out a grenade because then you can kill them and the grenade will blow up a bunch of other zombies.
Take advantage.
That's cool and all until you got 4 that are cornering you.
Well, that sounds like a skill issue.
Also, when you're escaping the Citadel, how convenient of the falling debris that it only starts falling whenever the elevator's moving, not when it's stopped. How polite.
Oh, nice. Just for you, it will stop.
Then there's that one part in the parking garage where all the antlions are everywhere and you gotta fill in the holes with cars with the gravity gun. That mechanic I could take or leave, if I'm being honest, where on one hand, yeah, you do have to utilize the gravity gun to push cars and block the antlion nest, but I don't know, I just felt it was too much of a hassle, but felt satisfying when you were done with it, so...
It was kind of tedious a little bit, I will say.
It was really just that section, because in other similar segments, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. All those damn antlions that just keep on coming out when I just want to put the car in the hole. I just want to park it right there on top of you. I kind of didn't like that section, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it.
There was that one part where you have to wait for the elevator to come down, and you're essentially in pitch darkness.
Ooh, loved that. It was a lot of chaos going on, and I thrive on that kind of chaos fun.
I remember that whole underground segment going on a lot longer than it actually does, but I first played through the Half-Life games back in, like, my freshman year of high school, and there's a lot of these games I surprisingly didn't really remember. I guess I just kinda forgot about. Like, the airboat section, that went on way longer than I remembered it going on. I don't know, I guess I just sorta tuned it out back in the day. What do I know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to me, it felt shorter than I remember. Like, when I originally played, I felt like it went on forever.
That's how episode 1 felt to me, because I forgot how short it was. I remember it going on a lot longer, like that underground section. I thought the underground section was like most of episode 1, but it's really only a third of it.
It's amazing how, like, we remember things being much longer or shorter than what they were.
Yeah, I also kind of Mandela affected myself with one of G-Man's moments where at the end of Half-Life 2 when he says, "Time, Dr. Freeman," I remember the line going, "Time, Dr. Freeman. You are running out of time." And then it just kind of ends there. But no, he has like a whole other monologue with that.
Those are just the part of it that stuck with you.
The last section of episode 1 is you have to escort resistance members out of City 17 to a train station. What'd you guys think of this segment?
It was cool. I liked it that it was something a little different. I don't usually get to escort...
Yeah, variety.
Yeah, I don't usually get to escort NPCs from one place to another and have to keep them alive. But well, it got pretty hard, not gonna lie.
I don't like escort quests.
Now, fortunately, I was able to get through without any casualties casualties this time, but I do remember playing through it the first time and I lost a few people and I just felt bad.
Everyone died.
It's insane.
Everyone died.
I will tell you, the Combine really come at you on the 4th and 5th wave.
Let's just go. Let's go all out. Let's actually be smart.
Why are we attacking them in individual waves?
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. If the Combine forces really wanted to, there's nothing we could have done against them.
Do you think it's a reflection on kind of like that 7-hour war, kind of like how the Earth is still broken to where even the most powerful of forces is still weak to itself?
No, I just think the Combine were so astronomically more powerful than any human military. Like, it didn't matter if all of Earth teamed up. Even outside of weaponry, like numbers, the Combine are trillions.
Yeah, I mean, they have galactic space travel. That is way beyond anything Earth was capable of at that time.
What I'm saying is that Earth is in a point to where even with the assistance from the Combine and from kind of like having this governmental power, if we were to go against the government today, we're more stable than like the Combine was, because the Combine was only 20 years, and plus they were probably still coming to terms with this newfound power.
I think it's because Earth is exhausted. There's no resistance left. Like, there is a resistance, but you know what I mean. There's no real threat to the Combine's power until Gordon shows up. The Combine forces on Earth, yeah, they have some Striders, like they have gunships and stuff. Like, they have some Combine technology, but it's not the good stuff. It's the hand-me-downs, if you will. And they haven't really had to actually fight any real threat to their power. So I feel like the Combine forces we encounter, like, again, they're not weak or pushovers. They are a threat to be reckoned with. It's just they're not as big of a power as Dr. Breen makes themselves out to be.
They're the wardens of Earth. They pretty much made Earth a prison for us. It's kind of like comparing, like, well, our police forces versus our military.
Well, in America, what's the difference at this point?
Yes. Don't bring this into too much meta reality. You know the point I'm trying to make.
So the whole reason that the Combine even spared humanity in the first place, as much as they did, they still slaughtered, millions of billions, but the reason they have an interest in Earth is because of the technology, specifically the teleportation power. Because as Dr. Kleiner, I think it's Dr. Kleiner, explains, the Combine can only teleport one way. Once you're teleported, you're basically stuck in wherever you're sent. It's a one-way trip. But humanity discovered two-way teleportation, a way to go forward and backwards. And that's why the Combine is invested in Earth. That's what they're interested in. That's why they're after people like Dr. Eli Vance.
It's the one bit of technology that we have up on them.
So after you fight through waves of these Combines and you just get everybody to safety, they get on a train. Gordon and Alex then decide to go on a different train. And as you're driving away, the interdimensional explosion happens. Everyone's running away, but they can't outrun it. Not even the fastest train.
Originally, Alex was going to be talking during this scene, commenting on the situation, but during playtests, Val realized players would focus on Alex instead of the city exploding. So yeah, they just wanted the player to focus on the Citadel blowing up. Imagine being one of the last Combine soldiers, because you see a bunch of gunships flying out of the Citadel, well, the remains of the Citadel right before it blows up. I want to know what they were doing this whole time. They're like, oh shit, guys, oh fuck,
They just took
fuck.
time. They just took their time. They had to make sure all their shoes were tied, all their belongings were in the suitcase before they decided to go.
The core's about to blow up. Sector 4 will take care of it. That's their problem.
Sector 4 is dead.
I'm not paid enough for this shit.
So, Half-Life 2, Episode 2, released on October 10th, 2007. And Episode 2 has a bit of an interesting place in gaming history because unlike the previous episode, this one did not release standalone. It was part of a deal, a collection of games called the Orange Box.
Ooh, sounds important.
The Orange Box, one of the greatest game bundles in gaming history. For the price of one game, you got Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, the newly released Half-Life 2 Episode 2, plus Portal and Team Fortress 2. Now, granted, Team Fortress 2 would end up becoming free-to-play a few years later, but still. Alongside Episode 2 is where Portal and Team Fortress 2 got their start.
I didn't know that history of the Orange Box. I just knew of the Orange Box.
October 2007. The highest grossing movie was Disney's The Game Plan, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Remember that movie?
I love that movie.
I never watched it.
The duality of man.
Spike is best boy.
Man, the Orange Box. I remember buying the Orange Box physically at first, walking into a GameStop, seeing this and like, yo, it's got that Portal game I've been hearing so much about, and Team Fortress 2, oh, my buddies play that game. What's this Half-Life? And then I played it on PS3, realized, yeah, this is cool, but I also have this gaming laptop with Steam, so then I just bought it again on Steam.
Yeah, I originally bought it on my 360 through the Xbox store.
360 Xbox, that brings back a lot of memories.
Kind of highlights just how long ago this was.
Yeah, because now we've had the Xbox One, the Xbox One Series X, and now we're on
The PlayStation 5.
Yeah, the PlayStation 5.
But hey, how about that song track, Sector Sweep? That's a really cool song. I like the music. The music to Half-Life. I like this. How would you describe the music?
They have a lot of good music.
Environmentally influenced to where it makes the player feel like they're guided through a cinematic while they're fighting.
I mean, that's the feel. It's not really the genre of music.
It's like industrial atmospheric.
Industrial techno? Would techno be the right term?
Yeah. I was thinking that, but I don't know if that fits or not.
It's the pre-game of Cyberpunk.
So, episode 2 begins with Gordon and Alex escaping from the wreckage of the train. There's a bunch of, what are they called? Portal storms or something? They're like earthquakes with style.
Yeah, that resonate from the Citadel. And pretty much we get in contact with people who are actually in White Forest. Now, White Forest is a base that the Resistance have out in the national park that I think is named also White Forest, hence the name.
Yeah, you pass by the White Forest Inn at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I like how after the first 2 episodes, you're mostly around City 17. You're in very artificial, industrial, rundown areas. But episode 2, you're mostly out in the countryside, the forest, the woods, the mountains.
It reminds me of my dad taking me outside and being like, get off them games, son. Go get some help.
This episode introduces the Combine Hunters.
I want to add something before we jump to the Hunters. We learned that the Citadel is going to basically explode again, and we need to take out the portal.
Well, it's half that the Citadel's about to explode again, and half that when the portal opens, the Combine are going to send in a whole bunch of reinforcements.
If they do that, Earth is fucked.
Right, and so we need to go to White Forest to send a nuke into the portal. I'm not sure. Who did they shoot at? Did they shoot at the Citadel or did they shoot at the portal?
At the portal, and it's not a nuke, it's a Magnuson rocket.
Of course, the Magnuson rocket with
trademark.
Extra 8 pounds.
That's not a vending machine, it's a Magnuson beverage dispenser. The Hunter's introduction, it's not a cutscene because obviously you're still in control of Gordon, but it might as well be a cutscene because you can't do anything. They just show up out of nowhere and they just impale Alex, and you think Alex is dead.
Yeah, I was just like, oh shit, I guess we're screwed.
Really establishes the Hunters as the new dangerous threat.
She's gone.
But don't worry, Vorty the Vortigaunt shows up and rescues Alex and Gordon.
Vorty.
Come with me, the Freeman.
Yes, Vorty the Vortigaunt. Everyone loves him.
Yeah, apparently there was a base right down below into the mines.
What were the 2 human companions down there? The 2 human resistance members? Those guys were fun. I like the banter between them.
They're definitely going to be best friends.
They are best friends. So while the Vortigaunts are healing Alex from her injuries, Gordon has to help these guys defend them from all these antlions that are swarming this underground facility, setting up sentry guns. And this is a really fun, strategic change of pace to the game flow.
Mm-hmm. I always put sentry guns kind of like opposite, and then I would just help out the friends and cover the one that would be like right next to them or something.
Yeah, I did something similar. I would always help them out because I can't leave my bros.
Right. And I don't know. I didn't trust their shots. I was just like, I've seen your friend shoot. I don't think you can shoot that well. So I'm going to be right here.
Yeah, I just tried to, like, protect them as well. Just, like, do whatever I could to, like, make sure, hey, they stay alive. Because, let's be honest, AI back then really sucked.
I mean, it's not bad, but yeah. But hey, you have to travel through an antlion nest in order to get the extract to heal Alex, and you can step on antlion grubs to heal yourself, but then who's the real monster?
Me, because I picked it up and ate it.
You're just stepping on these antlion babies, and yeah, I know they're an invasive species, but...
Eat the babies!
Maybe the reason they hate you so much is because you keep killing their babies, man.
All I did was walk on their sand and they threw a fit.
Must gain sustenance.
During the commentary, Valve developers said that they kept running into a problem with where playtesters would keep trying to kill the antlion guard, like the green one that you're not supposed to kill. The Vortigaunt has to explain to you, don't kill that or else the extract will dissolve. And they said that they were upset with having to do that because it's telling the player what to do, and that goes against a lot of Valve principles. But I'm like, this one sentence of exposition, Valve, you know? In a sea of gameplay first, I think you can do one little tell, don't show.
Yeah.
Just one small moment, and it's not like they're breaking, like, the immersion of the game by doing that. It's just, they know more. And so it's like, here, have this information.
Right. Then after you heal up Alex and you get a nice visit from your mutual G friend, you get another vehicle sequence where you have to ride around in a car.
I don't like these sequences.
But you're riding with Alex, isn't that fun? It's like a road trip.
I like the car.
Going on a road trip with my best friend.
Moving right along.
Good times and good news. Good friends you can't lose. This could become a habit.
Oh yeah, what about that fake out in the mines where there's a whole bunch of crates on top of one of the carts over a cliff, but if you try to grab it, the carts just fall into the abyss?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was already able to grab one cart and that was it. And then the guy compliments you being like, I see the Freeman is skilled or something like that. And I'm like, I only got one health pack out of everything that was there.
But eventually you do meet up with the rest of the Resistance, Dr. Kleiner, Eli Vance, and all that at the White Forest missile silo base, where they're trying to launch a rocket to destroy the portal. And this is where we run into Dr. Magnuson, who, again, worked at Black Mesa, and specifically, he was the scientist whose casserole you destroyed in the lunchroom in the first game.
Yep. What great callbacks. He might need to overlook that little incident so that we can help him.
It was a delicious casserole.
Dr. Magnuson. I like how he's the exact opposite of Eli, where he's just a prick to everybody.
I don't know. I had a respect for him. He seemed to have carried himself, even though as a prick, he was definitely a doctor that stood behind like what he said.
I mean, yeah, he can back his stuff up with the fact that his rocket actually worked, but yeah, he's just one of those pretentious, I'm smarter than everyone else around me.
I don't know. I had a soft spot for Magnuson, but not for his fucking bombs.
Magnuson devices.
Bombs. Bomb.
When the Combine breach, he's just freaking out over the intercoms like, oh god, oh fuck, we're all gonna die, somebody, oh my god, why can't anyone stop this, oh god. And then after Gordon saves him, he's like, carry on. Back to work.
It's like, all that panic. Just be like, okay, yep, we're fine. Ignore everything that just happened.
Take him or leave him, but I didn't dislike him. I thought, yeah, he's an asshole, but he's our asshole. Ooh.
I don't really have much care for him, like, he's gonna rub me the wrong way.
With episode 2, I definitely enjoyed how they're fleshing out a lot of the Resistance members in this. Not only are there more voice actors, but there was one moment where you walk into the base and there's one guy who's explaining weapons to a bunch of new recruits. Have you ever operated a M2 or whatever he calls it? Oh yeah, back in City 17, we had M3s. There's no such thing as an M3. In City 17, there were.
We only had them in City 17.
But it's it's here where Alex passes on the words to her father that the G-Man wants to relay. Prepare for unforeseen consequences.
PTSD, you love me.
Episode 2 ends with you successfully defending the rocket from Striders. It closes the portal, and Earth is, for the time at least, saved from the Combine.
Yay.
And now it's off to the Arctic to find the Borealis, which you think will finally turn the tide in the war against the Combine. And Dr. Eli is here to see you, Alex, and Dog off. And then the Combine advisors show up, and, well, Garrett, what happens?
So, they break through the window, get glass all over the place, make a mess. Oh crap, we are now in their levitating crutches. They kind of give us a front row seat to Dr. Eli Vance being arisen in front of them, and we're like, oh, it's coming.
Don't worry about it.
The thing is, Eli was so calm. Everything's going to be all right, honey. Just look away. Like, he knew he was going to die, but he just went through like a father, like a really great father. Didn't make it traumatizing for her. I feel like that's the least traumatizing thing you can ever do to dying in front of your kid.
Oh, sorry to cut you off, but I just want to highlight Meryl's performance as Alex during this scene. She is selling the trauma and panic and utter fear in Alex's voice.
Oh, for sure.
I will say, it's like the voice acting in this game was actually pretty decent at certain points.
I will say the voice acting is probably like an 8 out of 10, given that 2 out of 10 is just those, like, you get those points are so far in between, but that 8 out of 10 just really boom, brings it there.
I'd say for the time, it's on the higher end of the spectrum. It's definitely better than a lot of video game voice acting around the time. It's not the best, but it's on the positive side.
That's fair enough.
Right, but anyway.
Eli Vance gets his brain sucked out. That's kind of where it ends.
It ends with Dog coming in and saving Gordon and Alex by injuring the advisors, and they fly away, but it's too late for Dr. Eli Vance.
Like, I don't know, like, I know Dog is, like, fast and stuff like that, but how fast is Dog? How was he able to survive that?
I mean, he just got the jump on them. They didn't see him, and he just surprised them.
Like, I'm thinking back to the Citadel explosion. I know he had some time, but, like, did he have that much time to get to that safe? You know, that much of a safe distance?
Maybe there was more of a time gap between Episode 1 and Half-Life 2. Like, maybe the G-Man was doing some fucky-wuppy, timey, wibbly-wobbly stuff or whatever, and Episode 1 begins a bit later than it did. Maybe Dog was able to evacuate in time.
Dog's just that powerful. He survived the explosion. He just took the full blunt of it.
But yeah, so that's where Half-Life 2 ends, with Dr. Eli Vance dead, Alex crying over his body, and Gordon just staring in disbelief and shock.
Oh boy, I can't wait for Half-Life 3. When do you guys think that's gonna come out?
I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. There is no Half-Life 3.
What? Really?
Sorry to break it to you, kid. Christmas ain't coming this year.
You're joking, right? You're joking!
All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this giant shadow that this game has left hanging.
Yep.
Half-Life 2 Episode 2, as I said, released in 2007. It has now been over 17 years since then, and here we are.
I get the disappointment because, okay, I knew this disappointment was coming, but
You're gonna carry that way.
I just never realized how much of a detriment this was, at least to my own mental health. I can't.
It's one thing, like, when you don't get a sequel to a game that deserves it, but when you get left on a cliffhanger and you never get that closure to it, it's just... it eats at you.
Like I said, I first played through the Half-Life games around 2011, 2012, and I feel like that was around the time people were starting to realize, yeah, this is never gonna happen. And I remember for the longest time, it was Half-Life 3 and Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, that was the running gag of, oh, we're never gonna get these games. But, well, lo and behold, we did eventually get Kingdom Hearts 3, so...
In 2019.
Right, but still, we got it.
I mean, and Valve is still a company, so it's like they might one day hopefully, but probably not.
Well, okay, this is where we get into the wider discussion about Valve as a game developer company because they don't really do games a whole lot anymore.
I know, I'm just saying they're still a company and they could if they really wanted to push that direction, but because they haven't yet, I don't think we will, but I don't want to lose all hope.
Do you think they're playing the long game and just waiting for the other companies to kind of fall down and then Valve will come in and just be like the best game company ever?
I think that ship has sailed at this point.
Yeah.
Originally, there was going to be an episode 3 that was supposed to come out in late 2007 or early 2008. That never happened. The last bit of Half-Life we got was Half-Life Alyx, which released in 2020 as a VR game, which, yeah, hey, cool, it's a new Half-Life game, but it's also mainly a prequel, so it doesn't really advance the story that much.
It's not what people want to do it's VR.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I would like to play Half-Life Alyx, but I don't have a way to play it, and I feel like I'm not alone.
And good VR headsets are expensive.
From what I've heard, it's a solid game. It's a good entry into the Half-Life series. It's just, if you don't have a VR headset, you can't play it.
So sad.
Yeah, I've watched playthroughs of it, and it's a nice game. It's beautiful, too.
I don't want to spoil Half-Life Alyx too much, but I will say it does address the cliffhanger of Episode 2, a little bit at least.
But I mean, it's still, like, I can't help but feel like Half-Life Alyx was a big, like, slap in the face, fuck you to the fan base. Because it just, like, they know how much all their fans really want Half-Life 3, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna have a Half-Life game, and then they release this, and then on top of that, make it a VR game.
Part of the reason I was interested in playing Half-Life 2 all those years ago was because of the discourse about Half-Life 3 back in the day. Mm-hmm. So many people memeing about it, so many people speculating, is it gonna happen? If so, when? And yeah, never did. And I think it's fair to say at this point, I honestly don't think we're ever going to get it.
No, I don't think we will either. I mean, I'm always going to hold on that tiny bit of hope, but I know it's futile.
I was of the opinion that Valve was waiting for like a major video game technological advancement, you know, like a major breakthrough in
the VR.
Well, that was partially what I suspected Half-Life Alyx was being when I first heard wind about it, but we've gone through so many generations of consoles now, new graphics cards, gaming has just advanced a lot since 2007.
If you look at like the best gaming has to offer today versus what it had back then, you can't really compare the two. They are night and day difference. The technology has advanced so much. Not to say, like, today's games are better than they were back then.
No, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I don't think we're ever getting Half-Life 3. If we do, I will eat my words. Audiences out there, if Half-Life 3 at some point in the future is announced or released, you can come back to this episode and say, Chase, you're a dumbass.
But here's the thing. If it does get released, it'll be one of the biggest moments in gaming history.
I feel like it'll be up there with GTA 6.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of the biggest things to ever happen for gaming.
And then it turns out to be a card game.
No, it's a mobile card game.
Like, Valve, you were one of my favorite gaming studios back in the day when I was getting into PC gaming. I love Team Fortress 2. I love Portal. I love all your games. Well, most of your games. But I feel like in the last decade, it's kind of fair to say that a lot of Valve's goodwill has kind of evaporated. Like, people are a lot more cynical and skeptical of them these days.
Yeah, really all that Valve is at this point is a
they run Steam.
Yeah, they're just Steam. Valve has just become Steam. That's really all they are. And the Valve Index, their VR headset.
And the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying Valve doesn't do anything, and they do. I'm just saying from the game side of things. Like, they just threw the Counter-Strike community a bone by porting it over to Source 2, but I mean, there's no Half-Life 3. Artifact was a major disappointment. Team Fortress 2 has been left to die, so it's easy to see if you're a fan of all these series and games and Valve has just done nothing and ignored your pleas for so long. Yeah, it's easy to see why people are a little more bitter towards Valve these days.
Yeah, Valve is a nice memory.
I wait for them to prove me wrong. Yes, this major corporation who doesn't know I exist. Yes, prove me wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I am with Bethesda. Like, I know they're not going to release something that's proper, but it's like, I hope that maybe they'll do something right, maybe.
I remember when like I was a kid and I played Kingdom Hearts 2 and heard about Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out, and that sort of weight just kind of gets you so depressed, and it's now in the back of your mind and you can never really get it out on what could have been. I was lucky enough that Kingdom Hearts came out in 2019, so I got some closure.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the same boat with you with Kingdom Hearts. Like, I was so looking forward to Kingdom Hearts 3. I just didn't pre-order it.
And like, say what you want about Kingdom Hearts 3, at least you got it.
Right.
Yeah, we got the game at least.
I remember I pre-ordered it back in like 2013, being like, Mom, it's going to come out in 2015. Come on, buy it. I want to buy it.
Let's all take a bet right now. What do we think will happen first? Half-Life 3 releases, George R.R. Martin finishes his book series, or One Piece finally ends?
One Piece finally ends.
I'm more thinking like J.R. Martin finishing his stories is the most likely outcome of the three.
I don't think that's ever... I think at most we'll get Winds of Winter, but that's it. We are never going to get A Dream of Spring. But as for One Piece, I don't know. You say... I know Oda said that it's going to be wrapping up soon, but what if he's like one day, you know, this one random background character, they need a 50-chapter backstory.
No.
All right, but yeah, that's Half-Life. A part of me is tempted to just abruptly end this episode like Half-Life did, but I don't want to do you guys dirty like that.
We're not Valve.
Yeah, so Half-Life 2, it's one of the most important video games in gaming history. It revolutionized so much, and it's left forever unfinished. It's just left forever on a cliffhanger.
Gone forever.
Gone, but not forgotten.
Sad times.
All right. It's time to roll the dice. Now,
It is.
correct me if I'm wrong, but since you guys have done the last two, I believe it's my turn.
Yes, I was going to say, I believe I did the first one, Garrett did the second one, and now we're on to the third for Chase. Let's go, Chase! Roll that dice!
I like the emphasis you put on that. Okay. 5. 5 is the alphabet game. Okay, so this one should be nice and simple. Basically, we are going to have to go through the entire alphabet, A to Z, but each letter has to be a noun related to the game we just discussed. For example, A for Alex, B for something else. We'll get there when we get there.
All right.
Okay.
So who wants to go first? Who wants to start with A?
Well, you already did with Alex, so
Yeah, might as well. You roll the dice.
All right. A for Alex, B for
Bob.
That was my choice.
Breen, B for Breen, Dr. Breen.
There you go.
C for Combine, D for Dog,
Of course.
E for Eli,
Eli. Yeah.
F for can I phone a friend?
Yeah.
Okay, Zaid.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Zaid.
Yeah.
I'm on a game show right now, Zaid, and I need your help. What is something related to Half-Life that starts with the letter F?
The letter F.
Oh wait, I just thought of one. Haha, sorry Zaid, I don't need you anymore. Freeman, F for Freeman.
That's too easy.
All right, F for Freeman, G for G-Man, H for...
Havoc.
Yeah, Hevisu. Hey, this is my turn. Okay, you know what, Gary? You go. Start with I after H.
Oh, Lord. Of course you give me I. I don't even think there's anything in here for it. Fuck. I don't even know if there's anything for an I. I'm gonna phone Chase, because it seems like you were on the roll.
The number you are trying to reach has been disconnected.
Fuck you. I
have one. Isaac.
Ah, yes, Isaac Kleiner.
Yeah, we're on J.
Okay. J for,
Judith, Dr. Judith Mossman.
Judith, yep. K for...
Think of the scientists.
Think about my answer for I.
Chrisman. Is it Chrisman?
All right, it's Kleiner.
Yeah.
Dr. Kleiner.
Oh my god.
Isaac Kleiner.
Look, leave me alone. You guys give me hard ones.
It's the alphabet. We're going in order.
L is for Lamar.
All right, Lamar. M.
M is for MedPack. N is for... Did we talk about a nuclear reactor in this game? I don't think we did.
I was gonna say nuclear radiation.
Nuclear waste. Radioactive waste. Nuclear waste. Yeah.
That counts.
Yeah. So we're on O.
Omeprazole. No, wait, that's a drug.
Odessa Cubbage. Colonel Odessa Cubbage. He's the resistance member you meet that gives you the rocket launcher.
Yay.
And Alex says that he's her dad at one point.
P is for piss missile. I don't fucking know. Zayd, it's your turn.
Pursuit. You're under pursuit.
That's not a noun.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, I just started thinking words. Planet. We're on a planet. Q. Oh, jeez. What's in the game that starts with Q? That's the one I'm stuck on.
In fairness, you are allowed to skip Q because, okay, to be fair, how many words start with Q in the first place?
Quest.
R for, let's see. God damn it, brain. Why do I always just forget everything the moment I'm asked it?
Ooh, I know an R word. All right, think about it. It's a place. It's a location you go to.
Oh.
It's a spooky place. It's a scary place. You don't go there anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name.
It's kind of like the horror aspect in the game. The only horror level.
God damn it, brain. Oh, Ravenhell.
Home. You was close enough.
Close enough. Close
Home.
enough. Ravenholm.
Yes. I was trying to remember the last part of the word. Ravenhell. URS.
This game's hard.
Shield?
Yeah, Shield would be one. I was going to go with Synth.
Stalkers.
T.
T.
T is for... Time is a thing. It's more of a concept, but...
T is for time, Dr. Freeman.
U.
Ooh. There's one U word. There's one U noun in Half-Life.
There is. I'm gonna phone Chase.
Oh, Zayd, you're calling. I love it when you call, Zayd.
Half-Life 2, you! I need it! It's game show! I'm running out of time!
That's easy. The Vortigaunt scientist.
I don't remember names. Here's the problem with me.
It starts with a U.
You're right. I'm so bad at these kind of things because, like, I'm so bad at remembering names.
Uriah the Vortigaunt scientist.
Yeah, it's Garrett. It's your turn.
All right, back to Garrett.
Fuck! V is for... Room? No.
I can think of one.
The last name of the characters.
Vasquez? Vance!
Yes, Vance.
Alright, TV. W. W would be... No, okay, I'm thinking of nursing.
W for wait, because that's all the fan base is doing.
Think Breen.
I forgot his first name. William? Wyatt?
A similar name to William. You're on the right track.
Wilter. Winter.
You're thinking wrong vowel.
I don't know.
Wallace.
Wallace
Breen.
His first name's Wallace?
Yeah, it says Wallace.
Fuck!
I'm not gonna give you shit because I'm worse at this game than you are.
Okay, so...
X.
X is...
Is there a xylophone in the game?
How about I phone Chase since I already phoned Zayd here?
Yes, Garrett, whatever is the matter?
Look, if you're gonna need me to pay your side of the rent, I need you to answer this question.
We don't live together.
I need you to pay your side of the rent right now.
All right. This one is technically not Half-Life 2, but it is Half-Life related. Think back to the first game, Garrett. What was the name of the dimension that the Nihilanth came from? It's one syllable. Starts with an X.
Zen.
Yep, Zen, yes.
Fuck!
Zen.
Yeah! Okay, someone needs to do Y and then someone needs to do Z since it's the last two letters.
All right, I'll do Y.
Why?
Why, oh, why?
Why are we discussing the letter Y? If you turn the Half-Life logo upside down, it kind of looks like a Y. I say that counts.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, Y. I'm gonna phone a friend. All right, Garrett.
Fuck. Why couldn't you choose Zayd?
What in Half-Life starts with Y?
yellow balls from the freaking Citadel or whatever.
Well, I just went to the Half-Life wiki and typed in the letter Y to see if anything came up, and the only thing that I found was Half-Life Year of the Dragon, a mod that features Spyro the Dragon.
There is literally no Y in
Lord have mercy.
Z for zombies.
Yay!
Yeah, Z for
Yeah.
Head Crab Zombies.
Yeah.
There. We had to skip a couple letters, but you know what? We did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yep, that's the alphabet game with Half-Life.
Oh, that was amazing. Woohoo!
Yeah, it feels good to be back.
Well, I think, as always, if you want to leave us a comment or maybe talk to us or ask us some questions or maybe on the next game you would like us to cover, you can email us at backwardscompatible. I've been your host, Garrett.
I've been your host, Chase.
And I've been your host, Zaid. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, you freaking degenerates.
Hey, be nice.
Hey, you can't talk to our viewers like that.
Audience, we give you permission to insult Garrett as much as you want. You guys don't know the legend of Gnome Chomsky, the greatest garden gnome to ever exist?
No, tell us more.
Well, take a seat over there. Alright, so, at the beginning of episode 2,